This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about. Real, honest, entertaining, live. DBL starts right now.
3, 2.
Welcome to DBL. Guess what, y'all? It's Friday.
Yes,
we made it another week. It's April 9th, everyone. I'm Tori here with my brothers, Al and Brandon. It's really good to see you all. Let's get started. We do begin with some sad news out of Britain. Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, has died at the age of 99. The Queen announced his death with deep sorrow. He spent his final days with her at Windsor Castle. Now, the two were married for an unbelievable 73 years. The Queen is expected to enter an 8-day period of mourning. Now, joining us to talk about this is Stephanie Jones. Steph, you are, of course, a Brit. Put this into perspective for us. How big is this news in England today, and what can you tell us about Prince Philip that maybe we don't know? We haven't heard from him or hadn't in a long time.
Yeah, so he is beloved by the people of Britain, and it is definitely a day of national sorrow and loss. Like you said, he was 99 years old, but he did a lot in supporting the Queen and our armed forces, particularly the Navy. So they're going to be very, very sad about this. And like you said, Tori, they were married for 73 years, which is an amazing achievement within itself. himself, so I can only imagine what the Queen and the royal family is going through right now. It's very sad. And for a fact that you might not know, he is the longest serving royal consort in history.
Wow.
In Britain, which means the supporter to the Queen or King, the married partner to whoever's on the throne.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, Steph, a lot of people only became familiar with Prince Philip through The Crown on Netflix. Do you think how he was depicted there was fair, accurate?
You know what? From what I know, obviously I've never had the pleasure of meeting him, but I was an avid watcher of The Crown. I loved it, and I think it was extremely fair. They used a lot of his witty one-liners. He was known for being very sarcastic and, to be honest, controversial, not only for a royal, but for anyone. He definitely spoke his mind. He kept Queen Lizzie in check, I'll give him that much, telling her to hurry up, get things bloody moving. He was always very, brash with the press. But, I think he's that's a very fair representation of him and his sense of humor, I would say.
All right.
All right. Well, speaking of controversy, Steph, what do you think are the chances that Prince Harry and Meghan will actually travel back for the funeral?
Oh.
I hope that they will be doing that, and I think this is a really good time for them to meet up with all the family and hopefully make amends and put some water under the bridge. This is a colossal loss for the royal family. He is the head, obviously the Queen is the Queen, but he's the head of their household. He's helped raise all those children. He's been such a supporting factor of that family. So I'm hoping that Harry and Meghan will go back, and this will be a time for them to make amends, put to bed any bad feeling, and hopefully all move forwards in a positive light and support the Queen, who Harry is extremely fond of.
That's wonderful insight on that, Stephanie. Thank you so much for all your insight on this. Again, I'm so sorry to hear. I mean, it's hard when a leader of your country has passed. So our thoughts are to you, as well as everyone from the Great Britain area. Well, Hunter Biden is out with a new memoir and is making the media rounds. Last night he was on Jimmy Kimmel, and Jimmy got to ask him about his infamous laptop. Whoop, 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 that many on the right think is a smoking gun. So here's what Hunter had to say about it.
No, look, I really don't know. And the fact of the matter is it's a red herring. It is absolutely red herring. But I am absolutely, I think, within my rights to question anything that comes from the desk of Rudy Giuliani. And so I don't know is the answer.
A lot of people online are reacting to some of the jokes, though, that Kimmel made about Hunter's real addiction to crack cocaine. Let's take a look at this and talk about it on the other side.
You were doing crack at the places that I eat.
Yeah. Well, not intentionally. I wasn't stalking you.
No, I didn't think you were. But, I feel like I learned a lot about crack. And I know that sounds weird, but you hear about it and you see it on TV shows and, in the news every once in a while. But I learned how to I really think I could get it now, thanks to your book.
Well, I hope that wasn't the message.
One person tweeted, Jimmy Kimmel making lighthearted jokes about crack with Hunter, sir. Addiction jokes in 2021? It's not funny. So what's your take? Is it okay to joke about addiction like this? I'm going to our stand-up comic. I am a stand-up as well, but you're better. Do tell us a little bit about that, because I thought it pushed I get it. Jokes are always going to be okay for me, but I thought it was a little inappropriate. I did.
I mean, making jokes about smoking crack, that's ridiculous and out of line, right? Richard Pryor?
I know.
Like all the greats.
I know.
Everyone has struggled with addiction, and a lot of times, if you want to speak to people about something serious, Brandon, you do it in the form of a joke, because otherwise it becomes a TED Talk, and no one wants to listen to that unless they showed up for a TED Talk. But if you present things with humor, that's why anybody that's taking a speechwriting class, they say start with a joke, because people relax a little bit and they're more willing to listen to information. So I saw no problem.
What about as an addict? A former addict? Did you have a problem with that? I mean, did it rub you the wrong way as an alcoholic?
Not at all. Not at all. Like I appreciate it.
As a black man, shouldn't that rub you a little bit the wrong way?
Talk to me.
Because I understand, like, okay, he's overcome something. I get that. But if we talk about the crack epidemic back in the 80s and the 90s, if you weren't a Hunter Biden, or you weren't the same color of skin as a Hunter Biden, you probably wouldn't be on Kimmel. today.
Absolutely
And because
not.
of who his father is, he got away with being able to be a crack addict and to come back and to serve as the head or serve on certain boards and stuff. So I look at it and I'm like, okay, I'm glad you guys are laughing about it. I'm glad you're laughing about how the racial disparities were of this drug, and it upset me, Al. It really did upset me for watching that interview.
I mean, well, I don't know if you're getting so. I'm sorry, I can't even listen to what you're saying. I love what you're wearing today. You look super cool.
You look so good.
I'm like, wow. I'm like, that looks great on you.
He looks so cool.
I digress. I think the thing that you're getting upset about is privilege, and whether it extends to drugs, whether it extends to somebody has multiple DUIs that just went away because their daddy pays the sheriff's vacation, whatever. That's what privilege brings, and it's a larger conversation about how we decide to structure our society and punishment.
That's a really good point, that the privilege of him getting away with that, or at least laughing about it after that, is something not everybody enjoys.
Yeah.
Very good point.
I saw a great tweet one time from the guy that passed away years ago. He committed suicide. He created a bunch of shows. I forgot his name. Wendell Wetzel something.
Yeah.
But his tweet was, I love watching actors laughing about talking about having regular jobs that people still hold.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're like, I used to be a waiter. Can you believe it?
People like,
and it's like,
yo, I'm a waiter now. Wow, lots of privilege. All right, guys, coming up on DBL, Dancing with the Stars champ Cheryl Burke joins us. Could she be back for season 30 of the hit show? But first, we're breaking down the latest in the Derek Chauvin trial, the riveting courtroom testimony. That's coming up next. Closed captioning provided by Welcome back to DBL. There was some very important testimony yesterday in the trial of Derek Chauvin. So a number of medical experts were called into the stand to testify about the cause of George Floyd's death, including this pulmonary specialist. Here's what he had to say, what caused Floyd's death. Take a look.
Mr. Floyd died from a low level of oxygen. The cause of the low level of oxygen was shallow breathing. Main forces that are going to lead to the shallow breath are going to be that he's turned prone on the street, that he has the handcuffs in place combined with the street, and then that he has a knee on his neck and then that he has a knee on his back and on his side.
It's hard to hear every time. The reason this is so important, just so you know, we're not just showing you this, it's because the defense is arguing that Floyd's death was caused by the drugs in his system and not by the knee on his neck. What do you think of this testimony as a juror? And if you're being a good juror, this is the meat you can get your teeth into. This is where you can say, okay, cause of death, boom, I can blame you. Without you, Derek Chauvin, George Floyd would be alive today. What do you think, Bridget?
And he also showed a picture of Derek Chauvin having his knee on George Floyd, but the toe, the boot, not touching the ground, which means that his body weight was on him. He also showed the video evidence where the man, he testified saying that, hey, at that moment where you could see that he was lifeless, his eyes were lifeless, he stayed on him for another 3 minutes and 27 seconds. So we've heard from the civilians. We've seen people cross over that blue line out, and now we're hearing medical experts. I pray it's enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably will be. But I think overall this is a win for defense attorneys everywhere, because if we can see what we see and we still need 49,000 witnesses and a 4-week trial for this, then what happens when the cameras go away? What happens when this is now okay, where you watch somebody be murdered and then there has to be this discussion about, well, did he have a heart attack before the guy shot him? When you see something and it's still not a slam dunk, I think it's a win for defense attorneys everywhere, because all they got to do is prove a fraction of a doubt.
And it's funny you say that, Al, because remember, I believe it was either last year or the year before where people were outraged because the state of Arizona has now made it illegal for you to film cops during an arrest. So that plays into what you said just now. Now, what else are you going to need to try and convict someone?
Federally, you can use this. This is an important part of the civil rights movement. You can always film federally. That is illegal. But I will say this. There has to be due process, even though we saw it. I am against, of course, all of this. But when you say defense attorneys, that's a right that is given to us innately.
And they are unfairly attacked a lot when they defend horrible people. So my dad was an attorney. So
my dad's a defense attorney, right? So we get it.
I get that, but I'm just saying, for people that are currently defense attorneys, when something like this comes up, they can just kind of throw out any theory, and hey, it could happen.
It could stick.
It could be a thing.
It could be one person, and it could stick. I agree.
Gaslighting. The original Shaggy, it wasn't me.
God, I love that song.
It's gaslighting.
Because you got me on camera. It wasn't me.
That's gaslighting.
We got you on camera. Coming up on DBL.
Shout out to Shaggy.
We love Shaggy. Dancing with the Stars pro dancer Cheryl Burke from Tyra's Takeover to possibly coming back next season. This dancing queen literally gives us all the deets. Coming up next.
The stimulus bill expanded the child tax credit for eligible families. It could mean as much as $3,600 per qualified kid. But calculating how much it will get is a little complicated. How much you get per child depends on their age, with kids 5 and under qualifying for the full $3,600, then $3,000 for kids aged 6 to 17, and $500 for an 18-year-old who is still a dependent. How much parents make matters too. So for a single parent, your adjusted gross income needs to be $75,000 or less to get the full amount. While for joint filers, that limit is $150,000. If you make more, the amount you get per child decreases as your income rises. In order to get your payment, you need to file your 2020 taxes, and you won't get your payment in one lump sum. The money will be split between 2021 and 2022. According to CNET, the 2021 portion of the money is expected to start going out in July and will be paid periodically. Though right now, there is no set schedule.
Welcome back to DBL. Cheryl Burke danced her way into our homes 15 years ago on Dancing with the Stars, and now she's got a new podcast and a line of really cute masks. But will she return for the 30th season of the show that made her famous? We caught up with Cheryl earlier in Chatting with the Stars.
Woo, there she is. Hey, Cheryl, how are you?
Hi, guys. I'm great. How are you?
We're doing well now that you're on our show.
Yeah.
Okay, so this fall, Dancing with the Stars is celebrating, I can't believe saying this out loud, 30 seasons. 30. Will you
Can you believe it?
I can't.
That's so crazy.
Crazy. It's become such a staple in a lot of our lives. 30 seasons. Will you be back for this major milestone? You've said in the past that you're ready to retire, though.
You know, I keep going back and forth. Like, my head tells me maybe maybe not. But then my heart and my passion says absolutely, like, you have to celebrate this milestone. I've been a part of the show since season 2, so it's a huge celebration. I cannot believe just to say season 30. Everyone's like, what? It's been on for 30 years? No, it hasn't been on 30 years. We used to do 2 seasons a year, so I think around 15 years now, but still, it is such a huge celebration.
And as fans, I mean, we've gotten to see the evolution of you personally, the evolution of the show. And of course, many fans were shocked that Dancing with the Stars host Tom Bergeron and Erin Andrews were replaced with Tyra Banks. So what did you think of the shakeup?
I think that after 30 seasons or 20-something seasons of anything, right, it's time to basically evolve and grow. And I think that's what, Tyra adds to the show. It's new, it's fresh, and it's important that, we evolve as a show. And I think she's been adding a different type of energy, a very, positive and fun energy. I love being able to see what she wears every single week. I mean, it's so cool just to see her take on ballroom fashion,
So Cheryl, last season you were partnered, as Sam said earlier, with AJ McLean from the Backstreet Boys. You guys didn't win. I was pulling for you, but now you have a podcast called Pretty Messed Up. I'm a huge boy band fan. What's it like working with a member of the Backstreet Boys?
Oh my gosh. Well, AJ is just amazing. He's a really great guy. And I think what really bonded us from the beginning is we're both sober, so we definitely have that in common. And even before the last season, we actually were going to do this podcast. Had no idea he was going to be on the show, let alone be my partner. So this was something that has been in the works with iHeart for quite some time now. And it's me, Renee, his mentor, and AJ. And it's fun because we get to we're uncensored and we talk everything about mental health, sobriety, and we have really cool guests coming on and stuff like that. So it's nice to not be edited, And
I just want to say personally, I really am thankful to you and AJ and your podcast for trying to destigmatizing addiction. So thank you for putting mental health right there front and center. We appreciate that. Now, Dancing with the Stars
thank
host,
you so much.
You're welcome. Dancing with the Stars host Tyra wants to see Colin Kaepernick on the show. If you could pick your next, yeah, I know, isn't that a good one? I don't know if he would ever do it, but
it is.
If you could pick,
I'm a Bay Area girl, so that would be a perfect partner.
Where in the Bay Area were you?
Palo Alto area.
Okay, Santa Cruz over here. If you could pick your next partner, who would it be? Anybody in the world?
Well, if Colin's going to be on, why not? We'll represent the Bay Area. But I've always vouched for Joe Coy. We're both Filipino.
We just had him on the show.
He's my. Oh, you did? Yeah, we just had him on our podcast, and I've actually bonded with him just because we're both Filipino, and we just went way back to where our mothers would cook Filipino food, and it's just I think I would have. Selfishly, I would have a blast. But I don't think he'd ever do the show. So
he's amazing.
It's a pretty good candidate. That's actually a good call.
He's so funny.
He's already a star, but he's really rising to the top of stardom. I think he might be on that show if he wants to do it. Yeah.
I think it'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay, so
we'll see. I think he's currently shooting a movie with Steven Spielberg. So I think he's a little busy right now.
Yeah, he told us.
He's a little busy.
Now, Cheryl, first, thank you for joining us. But I think before we go, tell us all about your new masks.
So I've collaborated with Bailey Blue, and these are masks that, weirdly enough, I've been wanting to make even before the pandemic. I had a live stage show in Japan, and I saw all these beautiful Japanese people walking on the streets, and they had dental masks. And I was like, you know what? I've got to make something cuter. And so, you know, a series of unfortunate events happened, unfortunately, and I made masks. So this is more about the construction than the glitter, right? So what's important for me is that you can breathe in your masks, that you're not really self-conscious because you're not really feeling like you have a mask on your face, and look cute at the same time. So we actually have had these out for quite some time now. You can go to BaileyBlueClothing.com for more info, and we just released Mommy and Me masks. So like you and your daughter could have matching masks on her way to ballet class. We also have the rumba mask. They're basically named after every dance you've seen on Dancing with the Stars. You got the Paso Doble, the Quick Step. We've got so much.
I love it. And make sure, to our viewers, functional and fashionable. Go to BaileyBlueClothing.com. Cheryl Burke, thank you so much for joining us. Yes, we hope to see you back this season on Dancing with the Stars. Thanks, Cheryl. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by
With so much of Derek Chauvin's trial focused on the day George Floyd died, we're seeing a lot of conversation about Floyd's life. One tweet says, "The entire world watched the murder of a man. Now we're watching the murder of his memory and his dignity." But we expect to learn more about who Floyd was during this trial. So let's verify. Are family or friends of Floyd testifying in Chauvin's trial? Our sources, court footage and records, Judge Peter Cahill, and 2 criminal law experts.
It was an adventure always with him.
Floyd's girlfriend testified during week 1 of the trial, and she spoke briefly about Floyd and their relationship. But most of the questions focused on his addiction to opioids.
Yes, we did use together.
But in the days ahead, we expect testimony from loved ones that will be more focused on George Floyd's life. And here's why. Minnesota's court system has a unique rule known as the spark of life doctrine. It allows for witnesses who are there just to humanize the victim.
Mr. Floyd in this case is entitled to have the jury realize he was a human being, he was loved, he had a family.
Prosecutors plan to show photos of Floyd throughout his life and call 2 witnesses, one of Floyd's siblings and an acquaintance from Minnesota.
That's the kind of evidence that most states don't allow because they consider it too prejudicial and not really relevant.
Ted Samsel-Jones is a professor at Mitchell-Hamlin Law School in Minnesota.
It is a hard line to draw.
Here's where it gets complicated. The judge says Spark of Life witnesses can share memories about Floyd to show he was loved, but they can't say anything that could be considered character evidence, like calling him a gentle giant.
As soon as you start getting into propensity for violence or propensity for peacefulness, I think then we're getting into character evidence, and then that does open the door for the defense to cross-examine about his character for peacefulness.
Judge Cahill has made much of Floyd's past inadmissible because it's not relevant to the case. But if a Spark of Life witness oversteps, the judge could change that.
Because it's proper cross-examination. You say X, what about Y?
Then that gives the defense more room to come back and attack his character.
Rachel Moran is a professor at St. Thomas Law School in Minneapolis.
The defense really wants to introduce as much evidence as possible of Mr. Floyd's struggles with drugs.
Court documents show Chauvin's lawyer wants to introduce evidence of prior bad acts should the state exceed the permissible scope of Spark of Life testimony.
That would give the defense the opportunity to say something like, well, wait a minute, what about this time he was convicted of a violent offense?
So we can verify, yes, more family and friends of George Floyd will testify to humanize him, but they're limited in what they can say without opening the door for the defense to go after Floyd's past. With your Verify, I'm Gabe Cohen.
Welcome back to DBL. Oh boy, this group. When it comes to your health, how often should you be exercising? We're going to chat about it in DBL's Focus on Fitness, presented by QB. So you need to find that happy medium with your body. If you exercise too much, you can overeat as a result. Or if you're not active enough, you won't see any results or weight loss. So experts say the key is 30 minutes of exercise a day. It does not need to be strenuous. You don't have to go to the gym, but take a walk or do at-home exercises, anything that gets your body moving. Staying active is so important, and QB has made it easy. QB is changing the way the world thinks about fitness, regardless of physical ability or age. Try their under-desk elliptical at home. Call 1-800-782-2351 or visit QB.com to learn more. Very important to get up and walk. We did want to let you guys know some sad news. Rapper and actor DMX has passed away after complications following a heart attack. He was only 50 years old. His family confirmed his death at a New York hospital today. In a statement, they said Earl was a warrior who fought till the very end. He loved his family with all of his heart, and we cherish the times we spent with him.
Yeah, we just went from talking about exercise, and I just remember when I was grinding, trying to get to the NFL, you play some DMX music, and you know, a 5 a.m. workout doesn't feel like a 5 a.m. workout. So he was such a cultural icon to so many.
He struggled with demons his whole life, but I feel like at the end of the day, 50 DMX years, a lot of people will take that. He'll always be remembered, especially as like original hip hop fans before it's as mainstream as it is, as one of the people on Mount Rushmore of hip hop.
Pioneers, right? Rest in power. DBL's new every day. We'll see you Monday. Same time, same place. Stay safe, everyone.
Here's what we're talking about today on Daily Blast Live.
Queen Elizabeth reacts to the death of her husband of 73 years, Prince Philip. Will Harry and Meghan travel back for the funeral? President Biden's son Hunter goes on Jimmy Kimmel Live. Did they go too far joking about his crack addiction?
I'm surprised you have shoes on.
Yeah,
you know?
Pants were the problem. Pants were the problem.
And new music from Prince? The unreleased songs the world will get to hear for the first time. Plus, a trip back in time with Taylor Swift as she releases her first re-recorded album.
Real, honest, entertaining, live. DBL starts right now.
3, 2. Welcome to DBL. It is Friday, April 9th. I am Sam here with Tori and Al. Erica joins us from home. Let's get right to it because we do begin with some sad news out of Britain. Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, has died at the age of 99. The Queen announced his death with deep sorrow. He spent his final days with her at Windsor Castle. The two were married for 73 years. The Queen is expected to enter an 8-day period of mourning. Joining us to talk about this is Stephanie Jones. Stephanie, so put this all into perspective for us. How big is this news in England today, and what can you tell us about Prince Philip that maybe we didn't know?
Obviously, the nation is completely devastated, and everyone is feeling terrible for the Queen. Let's not forget they were married 73 years. That is an amazing achievement within itself, so I can only imagine what she's going through. And he really was a huge support for the Queen and really helped modernise our monarchy. So he was actually the first person that collaborated with the BBC in order to let us have a glimpse into royal life, to see things like coronations and weddings. That was his idea. So I think, you know, he's been a really good modernist. He was very outspoken. He was witty but slightly controversial a lot of the time. And I think the nation is going to really miss him. He was the backbone for the Queen, and I think she's going to struggle now he's gone.
And Al, before you jump in, Steph, let me just ask you, because I know that you're, constantly in contact with your family over there and your friends. What were some of your conversations with them this morning? Are they like beyond distraught, or the fact that he, passed away respectfully at 99? Does that give anybody peace?
I think obviously his age it's sadly at that type of age, it's normal to pass away, and it's sad that he has had health complications, and I think everyone feels really sympathetic to him. It's been COVID. The UK is still in lockdown. He's not had a regular or a normal life for the last year of his life, which is obviously very sad. Luckily, that means obviously he's no longer been doing any public engagements, but it does still mean he's not been able to see his friends and family or have that love and care and support, which I think a lot of people in England are feeling the same way with their loved ones that are in the similar situation and possibly passing or in hospital. It's very sad.
All right. Now, Steph, I'm going to ask this question on behalf of probably most Americans that got to know Prince Philip through his character on Netflix on the show The Crown. Tell us, is that, like, in your opinion, an accurate depiction of him and, like, who he is and who he was?
I would say absolutely. If you watch The Crown, you'll get a really good insight into parts of his upbringing, his schooling, what made him the way he was, and you'll also see glimpses of him telling Elizabeth to bloody hurry up and get on the boat and stop all this whining on and all sorts. It's exactly how he was.
I'm going to start saying that to you guys.
Don't try.
I will not.
You're not.
Steph, I want to know what you think. What are the chances? And I know this is on everyone's mind that Prince Harry and Meghan are going to come back for the funeral. That's like, I mean, we're all on pins and needles. What do you think?
Right, okay, so Harry is beloved by, obviously, the Queen, and he's very much reciprocated that. If we look at the Oprah interview, he went out of his way to, many times, say she was none of the racist comments. He loves her, and they're very, very close. So I think, of course, he's going to go back at her greatest time of need and be there for his family. And I really hope this is going to give them all a chance to air out their dirty laundry in a private manner behind closed doors, sort things out, and hopefully move forwards for him and Meghan and build some bridges. I'm praying for that.
I agree. I hope this brings them together. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for your insight on all of this. We appreciate you. So Hunter Biden is out with a new memoir and is making the media rounds. Last night, he was on Jimmy Kimmel, and Jimmy got to ask him about his infamous laptop that many on the right think is a smoking gun. Here's what Hunter said about that.
No, look, I really don't know. And the fact of the matter is it's a red herring. It is absolutely red herring. But I am absolutely, I think, within my rights to question anything that comes from the desk of Rudy Giuliani. And so I don't know is the answer.
Now, a lot of you online are reacting to some of the jokes Kimmel made about Hunter's addiction to crack cocaine. Take a listen.
You were doing crack at the places that I eat.
Yeah. Well, not intentionally. I wasn't stalking you.
No. I didn't think you were. But, I feel like I learned a lot about crack. And I know that sounds weird, but you hear about it and you see it on TV shows and, in the news every once in a while. But I learned how to I really think I could get it now, thanks to your book.
Well, I hope that wasn't the message.
So one person tweeted Jimmy Kimmel making lighthearted jokes about crack with Hunter. Sir, addiction jokes in 2021, that's not funny. So what is your take, DBL Nation? We always want to hear from you. I'll be looking at your comments. Is it okay to joke about addiction, in your opinion? Al, you are a stand-up comic. Was this okay in your book?
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't, then go ahead and throw out all your Richard Pryor tapes. I mean,
but that was then. Is it different now?
But is it though? I feel like anything in your life, any issue that you have between your husband, between friends, you're not over it until you can joke about it. Joking about it gives, and they always say comedy plus time plus tragedy equals comedy. You need to have some time pass. You don't want to have the jokes too soon, but you need to be able to really be over something once you can joke about it. So I think it's very necessary to have some humor around tragedy.
I agree. I'm kind of a sad stand-up comic that never really made it, but I will say
you're on TV right now.
Okay, thanks. Okay. But the humor is there, and I get it. I'm just not sure this was the right venue or the right time.
He's on Jimmy Kimmel.
I know, and I'm not sure Jimmy Kimmel is taking this as seriously as many people want. They have questions about Hunter Biden's laptop. They have questions about crack cocaine, and they also feel, a lot of you have written me in and said this feels very white privilege, right? There's a lot of black men, brown men, black women, and the crack epidemic that didn't get to just laugh it off with Jimmy Kimmel. And it feels a little like they're kind of making light of this if you're an addict. I felt a little uncomfortable. I didn't think it was horrible, but not the best venue.
What do you think, Erica? Do you agree with Tori or with Al?
Well, I think that Al is right in terms of, plus time, but there are people who are still serving time because of the crack epidemic. We haven't had a reckoning. I think had it been almost anything else, even if we were talking about cocaine, which had a very much lighter sentence than crack during the 80s. I mean, crack completely disseminated entire communities and put thousands of black men behind bars. This is something that we are still reckoning as a society, and we haven't been honest about the government's involvement. So to have someone who happens to be the son of a sitting president talk about this with Jimmy Kimmel, who's taking this so lightly, really does come across as like a slap in the face.
I agree.
Good conversation coming up on DBL. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson for president? Wait till you hear how many people want him to run. Plus, America is getting vaccinated against COVID. The new numbers, plus the other pandemic headlines. And next, attorney and legal analyst Mari Henderson joins us live to break down the latest in the Derek Chauvin trial. We will be right back.
Closed captioning provided by
When it comes to politics, we know that there's a lot of opinion, but here on the Verify team, we stick to the facts. You may have seen headlines like this: Dems could dethrone Iowa, as some Democratic leaders propose moving up the primaries for more diverse states like South Carolina ahead of Iowa and New Hampshire. So let's verify, could the order actually be changed? Our sources are these three political experts from DC and New Hampshire. Our New Hampshire professor tells us that the state has been the first primary since 1920. In 1972, Iowa inched slightly ahead of New Hampshire as the nation's first caucus.
There's not a lot of logic or thought into why we had it first, other than we were first. And once you have it, you want to keep it.
These are really important events, not only because it gives them outsized influence in selecting the presidential nominees, but there are as many reporters and political consultants and staffers in the state as there are citizens. I mean, this brings in a ton of money.
In fact, it's now part of New Hampshire law. The Secretary of State in New Hampshire is authorized to move the primary to always be at least 7 days before any other similar contest.
South Carolina would have to move theirs with an act of the legislature. What we have to do then is wait till it's too late for them to do it again and have the secretary set the date in front of theirs.
So it's a game of chicken that New Hampshire would probably win.
We hold more cards than the other state when it comes to this.
Okay, what about the National Party? Can they force Iowa or New Hampshire to let another state go first?
They certainly could step up and say, we're going to end this game of chicken. And whoever continues to do this is going to lose all of their delegates, or you're only going to get 3 delegates at the convention.
So we can verify that the order can be changed, but dethroning states like New Hampshire is not going to be easy. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozlov.
Welcome back to DBL. There was some very important testimony this week in the trial of Derek Chauvin. A number of medical experts were called to the stand to testify about George Floyd's cause of death, including this pulmonary specialist. Here is what he said.
Mr. Floyd died from a low level of oxygen. The cause of the low level of oxygen was shallow breathing. Main forces that are going to lead to the shallow breath are going to be that he's turned prone on the street, that he has the handcuffs in place combined with the street, and then that he has a knee on his neck, and then that he has a knee on his back and on his side.
Horrible details. To help put this into perspective for us, we've got a special guest on the show today. Please welcome legal analyst and former criminal prosecutor, Mari Henderson. Now, Mari, many of our viewers have also seen you on ABC News and Good Morning America, so thank you for coming on DBL. And please, Mari, what did you think of this testimony from yesterday? And will the defense be able to come back and try and prove Floyd's death was from some other cause, as they've already stated?
Well, I thought the testimony yesterday was very important. That pulmonologist said two things that I think the jury will really latch on to. One, he described the action of Officer Chauvin's knee on George Floyd's neck almost like a surgical procedure of a surgeon removing someone's lungs, which is really powerful testimony. The other important thing he said is that a healthy person would have died from these actions too. And that statement is a real blow to the defense, because the defense is trying to say it was his drug addiction, it was his heart condition, these other things caused the death, and that pulmonologist just totally eviscerated that defense.
Oh, sorry, that was me. I thought it was Al.
That
a lot
was
of
you,
folks.
Tori.
So sorry about.
No,
I was
that
actually
is
interested.
great for our new guest.
Okay, a lot of folks are talking about an email. I'm so sorry, Amari. George Clooney actually sent to Floyd's family attorney Ben Crump, suggesting some kind of demonstration. Can you talk to us about that letter and your take on George Clooney's suggestion?
Well, George Clooney, ever the actor and the director-producer, came up with a stunt that is probably best left for the movies. He said that if Derek Chauvin is so confident in his defense, then he should get up in front of the jury, lay on the ground, and have someone else lean on his neck with their knee for 9 minutes and 29 seconds to see if he survives. Obviously, that would be powerful testimony and evidence, but there's no way that that would ever happen in reality in a courtroom. That kind of a demonstration is nothing a judge would ever allow. I think it was effective that the pulmonologist yesterday took the jurors through a series of exercises where they touched their own throat and Adam's apple and neck to kind of see what was going on. But here, the most powerful testimony is the video. That is what makes this case so different from any other, is the body cam footage, the surveillance footage, bystander footage. There is just video of every second of George Floyd's last moments.
All right, Mari, I want to get back to the testimony. You said that the testimony from the doctor was damning. We also heard from police officers that testified against Officer Chauvin. How damaging was that testimony? And do you think we're at kind of the precipice of seeing a shift in that blue wall where now officers will out other possibly bad officers?
I think that the officer testimony was very strong for the prosecution, because the defense basically has two lines of defense here. One, he died for some other reason, and two, that the officer's use of force was appropriate and he was trained to do so. And both were blown out of the water this week, because several different use of force experts and members of the Minneapolis Police Department, his own police department, spoke out against him, and they spoke out against him strongly. They said it was totally unnecessary for this level of use of force. And so I think regardless of the shift in culture right now, this is something that officers would have said, because any officer who took the stand and tried to justify his actions that are shown on video would have no credibility whatsoever with this jury.
And Marnie, what do you think the defense's strategy is going to be in the coming weeks, given that we have the video and hearing the testimony, the powerful testimony we heard from the prosecution thus far?
I think their strategy will come down to a battle of the experts. I'm sure they have found experts, expert medical doctors, forensic pathologists, use of force experts potentially, who are willing to say that the fentanyl that he ingested, the methamphetamine that he ingested, and his underlying heart condition were contributing factors to his death, and also potentially that the use of force was reasonable. But what's important to remember here is, even if the drug use and the underlying heart condition were contributing factors, all the prosecution needs to prove here for each of these three charges is that it is a substantial factor. So Derek Chauvin putting his knee on George Floyd's neck was a substantial factor causing the death. Even if there are these other contributing factors, that doesn't matter.
Wow, great insight. Thank you so much, Mari Henderson. We appreciate you. We will be right back.
It's only a matter of time.
The stimulus bill expanded the child tax credit for eligible families, and it could mean as much as $3,600 per qualified kid. But calculating how much it will get is a little complicated. How much you get per child depends on their age, with kids 5 and under qualifying for the full $3,600, then $3,000 for kids aged 6 to 17, and $500 for an 18-year-old who is still a dependent. How much parents make matters too. So for a single parent, your adjusted gross income needs to be $75,000 or less to get the full amount, while for joint filers, that limit is $150,000. If you make more, the amount you get per child decreases as your income rises. In order to get your payment, you need to file your 2020 taxes, and you won't get your payment in one lump sum. The money will be split between 2021 and 2022. According to CNET, the 2021 portion of the money is expected to start going out in July and will be paid periodically. Though right now, there is no set schedule.
Welcome back to DBL. We've reached another milestone in the ongoing pandemic, and I'm happy to say it is a good one, finally. A quarter of all American adults are fully vaccinated against COVID-19. That's a total of 64 million people with both doses. Woo. That's not the only thing we need to talk about. Roughly the same amount of people are admitting to having less sex than ever before. On top of this lack of intimacy, a new survey says performance anxiety in the bedroom is on the rise. Most people say stress from the pandemic is to blame. All right, Al, you were vocal. You were vocal. Let's hear it.
Man, look, Corona and COVID's taking a lot from all of us, but let's not blame everything on it. Come on, man. Come on, that's on you. Don't blame that. Don't look. When you're in the bedroom, you need to perform. Period.
Oh, that doesn't put the pressure on someone.
No, there should be a little bit of pressure. There should be some pressure. I'm sorry. Yes, you should please your partner.
Yes, you should please your partner, but there's also performance anxiety for many individuals that are suffering right now, and Mr. Albert Jackson is now shaming them.
First of all, thank you for my government name. Second of all, you're not about to run the 100-meter dash in the Olympics, okay? This is a person that you should be comfortable with, and you guys should make sure.
Some people are not, Albert.
Okay, so just throw your hands up and say COVID to everything?
No,
Let's watch a movie again tonight, honey?
No, but sometimes when you have a source, that allows you to be able to deal with it. So
it's been a year.
Oh, Erica, do you want to chime in here?
Hi, Erica.
Hi, Erica. Hi, Erica. Hey,
just, I'm chilling over here in the she shed. Yeah. I think that it's a culmination of a bunch of things because obviously a lot of people have admitted to gaining weight during the pandemic, so they're not comfortable with their bodies. Also, we know that people who actually contracted COVID, not only have we heard that it decreased the libido, but also sperm count. So I think that when we're really talking about it, it might be as biological as it is emotional.
I'll just say in the right circumstances.
Wait, can we hear him respond?
Okay.
Thank you. And then Tori, I want to just, Erica, I'm not talking about the people that have contracted COVID. Long COVID is a beast. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about people that have been depressed about it. I mean, like, you have to get over that at some point. And I don't think it's fair to just blame that. I don't think you can constantly blame that on your performance in the bedroom.
But what if you really are suffering from depression from the lockdown, suffering from depression because you've gained weight? It's going to fall into and leak into the bedroom. It's going to.
Yes, but then you have to do something to mitigate that.
Sorry,
Am I
Tori,
not right, Tori?
Not at all. First of all, this was fascinating. I enjoyed this conversation immensely.
You can't just throw your hands up like.
Agreed, but some people are struggling when you're in that whole, really dark place.
Yes.
I'll be honest, you can't get out so easily out. So don't be so light. The second thing is, if you don't have kids and you're all alone, in my case, it can help.
Oh.
What's that all about?
It can make it more romantic.
But didn't you not have kids before COVID?
No, I'm just saying if you don't have kids to take care of them, we cook, we have wine, we do lots of things together. It's very romantic for some people.
I have no idea what that's like.
Are you saying COVID increased?
I'm just saying some people, it intensified the relationship, and there's also people out there that happened to, and it happened to be with me as well.
All right, that just turned into a humble brag at the end of this segment. Oh, you guys are struggling? We're killing it. Let's do the next story.
Coming up on DBL, Taylor Swift is back with a new album. Well, kinda. The new take on her old jams, plus The Rock for president. Could he really be our commander-in-chief? We're talking about it later in the show.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by
With so much of Derek Chauvin's trial focused on the day George Floyd died, we're seeing a lot of conversation about Floyd's life. One tweet says, "The entire world watched the murder of a man. Now we're watching the murder of his memory and his dignity." But we expect to learn more about who Floyd was during this trial. So let's verify. Are family or friends of Floyd testifying in Chauvin's trial? Our sources, court footage and records, Judge Peter Cahill, and 2 criminal law experts.
It was an adventure always with him.
Floyd's girlfriend testified during week 1 of the trial, and she spoke briefly about Floyd and their relationship. But most of the questions focused on his addiction to opioids.
Yes, we did use together.
But in the days ahead, we expect testimony from loved ones that will be more focused on George Floyd's life. And here's why. Minnesota's court system has a unique rule known as the spark of life doctrine. It allows for witnesses who are there just to humanize the victim.
Mr. Floyd in this case is entitled to have the jury realize he was a human being, he was loved, he had a family.
Prosecutors plan to show photos of Floyd throughout his life and call 2 witnesses, one of Floyd's siblings and an acquaintance from Minnesota.
That's the kind of evidence that most states don't allow because they consider it too prejudicial and not really relevant.
Ted Samsel Jones is a professor at Mitchell-Hamlin Law School in Minnesota.
It is a hard line to draw.
Here's where it gets complicated. The judge says Spark of Life witnesses can share memories about Floyd to show he was loved, but they can't say anything that could be considered character evidence, like calling him a gentle giant.
As soon as you start getting into propensity for violence or propensity for peacefulness, I think then we're getting into character evidence, and then that does open the door for the defense to cross-examine about his character for peacefulness.
Judge Cahill has made much of Floyd's past inadmissible because it's not relevant to the case. But if a Spark of Life witness oversteps, the judge could change that.
Because it's proper cross-examination. You say X, what about Y?
Then that gives the defense more room to come back and attack his character.
Rachel Moran is a professor at St. Thomas Law School in Minneapolis.
The defense really wants to introduce as much evidence as possible of Mr. Floyd's struggles with drugs.
Court documents show Chauvin's lawyer wants to introduce evidence of prior bad acts should the state exceed the permissible scope of Spark of Life testimony.
That would give the defense the opportunity to say something like, well, wait a minute, what about this time he was convicted of a violent offense?
So we can verify, yes, more family and friends of George Floyd will testify to humanize him. but they're limited in what they can say without opening the door for the defense to go after Floyd's past. With your Verify, I'm Gabe Cohen.
We have a lot of comments. Okay, so Yuchi says, if Hunter put in the book, it is fair game for comics. Robin says, I so disagree with you, Al. Jokes about drugs and addiction are not something to be joked about right now. This whole attitude is like a slap in the face, and Hunter Biden knows where his laptop is.
Oh, she got that last Hunter Biden part in there as well. I just want to know, then, just what are we allowed to joke about? Please tell artists what they're allowed to talk about, and we'll go from there. And then how much music and comedy would you enjoy? I say 0.
It's a fair point.
All right. If you are leaving us, you can watch the second half of the show on Facebook or YouTube. But if you're sticking around, here is what's coming up. Does The Rock really have a shot at being president? Wait till you hear how many people support his campaign. Plus, Taylor Swift just dropped new recordings of her classic hits. But do they live up to the originals? And a big thank you to our co-workers watching from home right now as they work diligently. We appreciate you all. DBL is new every day. We will be right back.
This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about. Real, honest, entertaining, live. DBL starts right now.
Tori is feeling it. Woo! Get it, girl. Welcome to DBL.
Me too.
No, you're not.
I am.
I did not even see a shoulder.
Can't you feel the heat?
I didn't see anything coming from your seat. That was Taylor Swift's re-released version of her song Fearless. I'm Sam here with Tori and Al. Erica joining us from home. So Taylor Swift dropped the long-awaited re-recording of her Fearless album today. It's the first re-release of the 6 albums she decided to re-record after her masters were sold to Scooter Braun and then to an investment firm. The new version of the Fearless album also includes 6 additional songs from the vault, including this one, Mr. Perfectly Fine. Have a listen.
Everything revolves around you. I've been misery since your goodbye. And you're Mr. Perfectly Fine.
Okay, we're also getting some new music from Prince. Nearly 5 years after his death, his estate announced it's releasing an album he recorded back in 2010. Welcome to America will drop on July 30th. Ooh, I don't even know where to begin here, but I know that you have a lot to say about Taylor Swift, so let's start with that.
Not a lot, just a great album. If you are a fan, and I've been a fan since 2008, I'm serious. Bridget just laughed, my executive producer. But I will say this, she re-recorded it with a deeper voice, a more mature voice. She slowed down some of the music. It's just a little bit.
What if we did that on DBL? What if tomorrow we just did this exact same show in a lower tone?
Well, no one else bought us out and took us without our permission, Al.
Look, that's a whole different conversation, but he did invest in her.
That is the
And he owned those rights. He invested. That's what happens when you invest in an artist before you're Taylor Swift. You're going to have 50 Taylor Swifts that you're going to miss on before you hit on one.
Great. You also have the consequences in which to re-record it. Go ahead.
Yeah, he didn't invest in her. Go ahead, Erica.
He did not. Investing in her would imply that he actually was trying to be a part of her growth. You can't invest in someone who hasn't asked, 1, to be invested in, and 2, who can already invest in themselves. So that's kind of a moot point, Al.
Erica, let me ask you, because I don't know the story, but I do defend.
I don't know the story.
I do. What did I do? Look, I will talk sometimes. I do defend people that, like the people in the industry outside of the artist, that do invest money, studio time, their look, makeup, videos, hoping that they will hit and become big stars and take a percentage of that.
That's not what Scooter Braun did.
What did he do?
Okay, Al, go ahead, Erica.
No, Al, I'm gonna remind you of what you said earlier, just to help you help yourself. You don't know this story,
That's
and
right.
you are so wrong.
Okay.
Totally right.
Yeah.
Talk to me, because I don't think a lot of Americans know. I'll take it.
Well, what you're referring to, I mean, I feel like this is digging up a very old story. We talked about it ad nauseum. You can check out my Twitter if you wanna. But essentially, you're talking about someone who was able to buy her own masters, and someone else swooped in a private deal in order to undermine her efforts to own what was her creative property. Now, you are a creator. You understand how much of a slap in the face that actually is. So what you're saying isn't really what occurred.
Silence.
We're going to move on to the next story. I think Albert gets it. He definitely gets it. Thank
I know
you,
when to
Al.
shut up.
Yep.
We love you.
Do you?
We love you. Okay, so what do you guys think about The Rock for president? According to a recent online poll, almost half of Americans would like to see the former wrestler in the White House. Dwayne Johnson has been open about his political ambitions in the past and even considered running against President Trump back in 2016. He has said that he would run as an independent. Angelina Jolie came in as the top female celebrity candidate for commander-in-chief, with 30% in favor of her as president. And Matthew McConaughey has said he would consider running for Texas governor. 58% of people polled said they would be in favor both of Matthew and The Rock running for political office. Okay, Tori, so I know you love politics more than anybody. What do you make of this?
So first off, just to know that name recognition is like half of voting. So right now, if you know the name Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, what is he cooking? Is that the thing?
Yes.
What's he smelling? Something like
Can you
that.
smell what The Rock is
Smell what The
cooking?
Rock's cooking.
Okay.
That's a phrase you're familiar with. You trust him. He already has a reputation in your living room, on your cell phone. You have a relationship. Now, when it gets closer and closer, do we really want another entertainer in the White House? That's a question question because entertainment, pop culture, and politics have become intertwined. Now, Ronald Reagan was an actor. It's happened before. But
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
We've seen Jesse Ventura. Right, exactly. Even Jerry Springer, mayor, I believe, of Cleveland. Am I right?
Cincinnati, excuse
me. So at some point, it's happened before. You just have to be careful. We're not doing it now just for the celebrity of it. At some point, some folks studied political science and know how to work the system better than, let's say, The Rock.
I don't see how it's a good idea to give one of the most, maybe the most powerful position in the world, Erica, to somebody that has no experience in that field whatsoever. There is no other field where this would even be a conversation. And I think that it's really, we think it's funny. We talk about The Rock, Matthew McConaughey, I like his movies, blah, blah, blah. But when something like a pandemic hits, something like when we're talking about abortion or gun rights, we need to have people that understand the system. They might be boring, but you know what? I want my politician to be a nerd about science. I want them to be a nerd about political process. I don't want them on the red carpet. I need you to be ready when everything hits the fan.
But there's some people, Al, who will say, and Erica, please help me, they don't want politics anymore. They want those dirty politicians out of D.C.
They feel like that all the politicians right now are in the pocket of somebody else. So either they're in the pocket of the NRA or in the pocket of some other lobbyist, so therefore they don't trust them. Erica?
Well, I think that that's a very broad brush to put on every politician. I know that almost all of us on this panel know someone who has dedicated their entire lives with the best intentions in order to make their community a better place and possibly the entire country one day. So I don't believe that every politician is dirty. I do think that we do have corruption in our system that needs to be addressed. But ultimately, it's interesting that we would talk about how dirty politicians are and bring someone in with absolutely no political background in the past to run this country, and we didn't see that being an issue in some capacity of how everything was thrown up in the air. So I just think we need to be careful about just broadening that broad stroke.
No, I agree with you.
And just to put a button on Erica's point, I think the reason that we don't hear about these people that dedicate their lives is because it's boring. We don't want to read about that. We don't want to read about a community organizer or somebody that volunteers their time, like Erica Cobb. That Erica could be floating on a floaty in her pool, but she's with kids. She doesn't have a pool, but her theoretical pool. But she's with kids that are in danger every day,
I know,
voluntarily. But there's no stories about that.
Right.
And so we don't hear about the good ones.
Very, very well said, Al. Okay, so can you believe
it's
been...
thank you, Al.
Weird. Can you believe it's been 20 years since Bridget Jones's Diary was released? The hit movie starred Renee Zellweger as Bridget, a woman obsessed with her weight and finding a man. It also starred Colin Firth and Hugh Grant. Now, Sally Phillips, who played Bridget's best friend, told a UK talk show that the movie is still relevant today because women only pretend to be interested in more virtuous things. Take a look.
Well, nowadays, women don't worry about their weight, and women don't worry about reading self-improving books, and women don't, want more than just a man. But I don't know. I think we don't change. I think we all want the same things.
Glad she said it.
What are you talking about?
I don't think a man could say that, but I think it opens up a very interesting conversation. But I think we might be looking at it from the wrong angle. I think that she's talking about women's perspective, like, well, what do they really value? And I think it's more, we almost remove women and talk about why does society still place these issues on women for them to think about? Because there's a lot of men that'll be right at the pool this weekend, gut hanging over their t-shirt, over their swim trunks, 2 beers in the hand, and they'll be the belle of the ball. Everybody will love them.
I know
women know that they don't have that luxury.
Right, and I think you're missing, there's also a historical context, right, to women needing to look a certain way, having to be a certain way. 2021 has opened us up to that. I think I get what she's saying, but I think she sort of made light of everything. I worry about my weight.
You think she was making light there?
Yeah, I think she sort of made it really casual. I worry about things, but I also worry about social justice and other important items, and I don't just laugh it off. I think there's two things can be held in my head at the same time.
Erica?
Yeah, I think Tori's right. When you make a statement like that, first of all, I'm sure this was not the totality of her entire interview, but it was something that, we're talking about. And I think a part of that has to do with the idea that if a woman is really concerned about, am I going to meet my partner? am I going to get into shape that I feel comfortable with, you know, for the summer? Then a lot of women feel like they aren't the strong woman that everyone talks about. They're not the, you know, the present woman that everyone's cheering for, because they're still considering those things. And the truth is, we can consider all the things, as Tori just stated. Like, there's nothing wrong with, you know, thinking about who your life partner might be, along with how you're going to help in social justice issues. I mean, those things can coexist.
I know. I feel like people forget that you can have duality of thought, that things don't need to be mutually exclusive. Like, for some reason, it's like this way or the highway.
It's black or white with that, and it's not, no pun intended, in terms of race, but it's very odd that we can't be considered complicated creatures.
I know. Okay, so looks like things are getting serious between Travis Barker and Kourtney Kardashian. The two have been dating since the beginning of the year and were recently spotted at a UFC fight in Nevada. Now it looks like Travis is cementing the relationship with some ink. Kourtney posted this photo on Instagram with her name tattooed on his chest, just in case you think this is a bad idea. Travis once had a tattoo of a heart with his ex-wife's name scrolled across it.
I just feel like he kind of hedged his bets there with where that tattoo is located. You couldn't even see it. I'm looking on a high-def TV right now.
You have tattoos. Tell us what you think.
Well, I think he has so many tattoos. If it doesn't work out,
look at that. That's like hidden. It's like
not a big deal.
It's like if I put "I love you, Sam" and then put it in some bushes. Like, yeah, did I put it there? Yeah, but you can't see it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are making a big deal out of this, being like, "Oh man, he's going all in. It's permanent." Listen, homeboy can easily put a rose on top of that and it go away. We all saw what Johnny Depp did.
Oh God, Winona forever?
And then Wino forever. And Johnny Depp didn't have a whole sleeve to hide it, so
you can cover it up.
Yeah,
I just think it's an indicator of bad decisions.
He's a hopeless romantic. He goes all in his relationships. It's quite cute.
Or he makes terrible decisions.
It's quite cute. Erica?
If they've had a long-standing friendship, maybe it's a friendship tattoo.
Good one,
if
Erica.
It doesn't work out.
Erica, we're close friends. Do you have my name tattooed anywhere on you?
No.
Oh, okay. Tori, Sam, any tattoos?
It's a hard pass for me, Al.
Okay.
That's a hard no. Okay, so we're going to switch gears here because we do have some sad news to report. Rapper DMX has passed away after complications following a heart attack. He was 50 years old. His family confirmed his death at a New York hospital today. In a statement, they said Earl was a warrior who fought till the very end. He loved his family with all of his heart, and we cherish the times we spent with him. Such a tragic story. Since his accident, he's been in a vegetative state on life support. I can't even imagine what his family members must have been thinking, because ultimately they're the ones that are going to have to make that decision. But knowing that the doctor said, Al, he is brain dead, he's not, and I'm saying this respectfully, this is exactly what the doctor said, he is brain dead and he's not going to recover. But as a family member, you always want to hold out hope.
Of course, because you do hear the stories about miracles, and if you know DMX in his career, he's a person that's just overcome everything, and just no doubt on the hip hop Mount Rushmore. Back before hip hop was like palatable to the country, when kids like me bought the CD and listened to it while his mom was in TJ Maxx. Like DMX holds a different place in our hearts and our memories. And you know, there was somebody earlier, Erica, that commented like, "Oh, you shouldn't joke about crack because we don't talk about things like that." DMX talked about the pain. He talked about his addictions, about his demons, and the reason he resonated with people is because he did that. He didn't hide that. So that's why I say to that person and to everybody, this is why artists talk about things that are difficult to talk about through their art.
Well, I think much to that same conversation earlier when we were talking about the time, there are people who are still dealing with the crack epidemic in real time. We've seen this video that's been circulating of DMX talking about the first time he was introduced to crack. He was tricked into using by someone who he trusted, who was an older man in his community when he was 14 years old, who put the crack into a marijuana or into a joint. So it wasn't as though he even intentionally decided to smoke crack. And for a lot of us who understand what the crack epidemic did, that was in the height between the 80s and 90s, the height of the crack epidemic, and how that had a continuing effect on our loved ones. Many of us have lost loved ones due to the crack epidemic, and that is very much a long-standing journey. So when we have these conversations about, is it okay to joke about crack, I think that this is a really great example of why the time is not now. And also the fact that he was a reflection of his community and all of those experiences when rap had gone in a very sleek and polished direction. So there is a whole community that is reeling right now because he represents them, their struggles, and anything that has really touched him has also touched his community and his fans. So a lot of people
Well said,
are
Erica.
mourning his loss.
I know, and our thoughts and prayers to his family. I can't even imagine. May he rest in power. We will be right back.
Closed captioning provided by
When it comes to politics, we know that there's a lot of opinion. But here on the Verify team, we stick to the facts. You may have seen headlines like this: Dems could dethrone Iowa, as some Democratic leaders propose moving up the primaries for more diverse states like South Carolina ahead of Iowa and New Hampshire. So let's verify, could the order actually be changed? Our sources are these three political experts from DC and New Hampshire. Our New Hampshire professor tells us that the state has been the first primary since 1920. In 1972, Iowa inched slightly ahead of New Hampshire as the nation's first caucus.
There's not a lot of logic or thought into why we had it first, other than we were first. And once you have it, you want to keep it.
These are really important events, not only because it gives them outsized influence in selecting the presidential nominees, but there are as many reporters and political consultants and staffers in the state as there are citizens. I mean, this brings in a ton of money.
In fact, it's now part of New Hampshire law. The Secretary of State in New Hampshire is authorized to move the primary to always be at least 7 days before any other similar contest.
South Carolina would have to move theirs with an act of the legislature. All we have to do then is wait till it's too late for them to do it again and have the secretary set the date in front of theirs.
So it's a game of chicken that New Hampshire would probably win.
We hold more cards than the other state when it comes to this.
Okay, what about the national party? Can they force Iowa or New Hampshire to let another state go first?
They certainly could step up and say, we're going to end this game of chicken. And whoever continues to do this is going to lose all of their delegates, or you're only going to get 3 delegates at the convention.
So we can verify that the order can be changed, but dethroning states like New Hampshire is not going to be easy. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozloff.
Welcome back to DBL. Today's Heart Threads is all about love and appreciation. Watch this mama's boy hug his mother after COVID lockdowns kept them apart for 1 whole year.
This baby boy got to hug his mama again after a year apart. The pandemic forced a halt to in-person visits to nursing homes.
The visits were nice, but they're not the same thing.
But as COVID vaccines are administered, the restrictions are loosening.
Regulation just changed last week that allowed us to have indoor visits in people's rooms. If the elder has been vaccinated, then they can do hug visits.
Now Glenn McKern and his mother Maxine can finally hug again.
Hi.
Hi, son.
Hi, Mama.
Love you. My son came to see me. He brought kisses and hugs.
The visit meant so much to mother and son.
I'm her youngest son, and I've always been a mama's boy.
My son came to see me. I just can't hardly believe it.
The pandemic has given Glenn and his family a greater appreciation.
We appreciate small things much more than your mom is a hug from your mom, but after a year, it's a whole different ballgame.
Go hug a family member right now. We'll be right back.
The stimulus bill expanded the child tax credit for eligible families. It could mean as much as $3,600 per qualified kid. But calculating how much it will get is a little complicated. How much you get per child depends on their age, with kids 5 and under qualifying for the full $3,600, then $3,000 for kids aged 6 to 17, and $500 for an 18-year-old who is still a dependent. How much parents make matters too. So for a single parent, your adjusted gross income needs to be $75,000 or less to get the full amount. While for joint filers, that limit is $150,000. If you make more, the amount you get per child decreases as your income rises. In order to get your payment, you need to file your 2020 taxes, and you won't get your payment in one lump sum. The money will be split between 2021 and 2022. According to CNET, the 2021 portion of the money is expected to start going out in July and will be paid periodically. Though right now, there is no set schedule.
Welcome back to DBL. When it comes to your health, how often should you be exercising? We are chatting about it on DBL's Focus on Fitness presented by QB. You need to find that happy medium with your body. If you exercise too much, you can actually overeat as a result. If you're not active enough, you won't see any results. So experts say the key here is to do 30 minutes of exercise a day. It doesn't need to be strenuous. Take a walk, do at-home exercises, anything that gets your body moving. Staying active is so important, and QB has made it easy. QB is changing the way the world thinks about fitness, regardless of physical ability or age. Try their under-desk elliptical at home. Call 1-800-782-2351 or visit QB.com to learn more. We'll be right back.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by
With so much of Derek Chauvin's trial focused on the day George Floyd died, we're seeing a lot of conversation about Floyd's life. One tweet says, "The entire world watched the murder of a man. Now we're watching the murder of his memory and his dignity." But we expect to learn more about who Floyd was during this trial. So let's verify. Are family or friends of Floyd testifying in Chauvin's trial? Our sources, court footage and records, Judge Peter Cahill, and 2 criminal law experts.
It was an adventure always with him.
Floyd's girlfriend testified during week 1 of the trial, and she spoke briefly about Floyd and their relationship. But most of the questions focused on his addiction to opioids.
Yes, we did use together.
But in the days ahead, we expect testimony from loved ones that will be more focused on George Floyd's life. And here's why. Minnesota's court system has a unique rule known as the spark of life doctrine. It allows for witnesses who are there just to humanize the victim.
Mr. Floyd in this case is entitled to have the jury realize he was a human being, he was loved, he had a family.
Prosecutors plan to show photos of Floyd throughout his life and call 2 witnesses, one of Floyd's siblings and an acquaintance from Minnesota.
That's the kind of evidence that most states don't allow because they consider it too prejudicial and not really relevant.
Ted Samsel-Jones is a professor at Mitchell-Hamlin Law School in Minnesota.
It is a hard line to draw.
Here's where it gets complicated. The judge says spark of life witnesses can share memories about Floyd to show he was loved, but they can't say anything that could be considered character evidence, like calling him a gentle giant.
As soon as you start getting into propensity for violence or propensity for peacefulness, I think then we're getting into character evidence, and then that does open the door for the defense to cross-examine about his character for peacefulness.
Judge Cahill has made much of Floyd's past inadmissible because it's not relevant to the case. But if a spark of life witness oversteps, the judge could change that.
Because it's proper cross-examination. You say X, what about Y?
Then that gives the defense more room to come back and attack his character.
Rachel Moran is a professor at St. Thomas Law School in Minneapolis.
The defense really wants to introduce as much evidence as possible of Mr. Floyd's struggles with drugs.
Court documents show Chauvin's lawyer wants to introduce evidence of prior bad acts should the state exceed the permissible scope of spark of life testimony.
That would give the defense the opportunity to say something like, well, wait a minute, what about this time he was convicted of a violent offense?
So we can verify, yes, more family and friends of George Floyd will testify to humanize him, but they're limited in what they can say without opening the door for the defense to go after Floyd's past. With your Verify, I'm Gabe Cohen.
Next week on DBL, a Monday you cannot miss. TV icon John Stamos is here and having way too much fun.
You go low, I go high.
And later, that's hot. The one and only Paris Hilton joins us to talk about her life today and the activism that inspires her. That's next week on DBL.
You cannot miss a single day. Okay, so Tori, you have comments?
Yes, Damon wrote in and says, I've been hearing my teen daughter blast Taylor Swift all morning. I'm already over it. And Melanie says, Taylor Swift is taking back her career and I'm here for it. I just have to say something clever on the cover of Fearless. It used to be Romeo and Juliet kind of story and she needed to be saved by the prince. On the new Fearless, she's wearing the Romeo shirt herself.
Cool.
She doesn't need a Romeo. It's her.
I want to get this in really quickly. I got a text from my buddy Joey at 12:16 before I said what I said about DMX, and he texted me reciting DMX verses when I was a homeless teenager gave me confidence and hope.
Wow.
We lost a real one, so he affected a lot of people.
Yeah, well said. DBL's new every day. We'll see you Monday. Bye, guys. Have a great weekend, everybody.
talking about today on Daily Blast Live.
Queen Elizabeth reacts to the death of her husband of 73 years, Prince Philip. Will Harry and Meghan travel back for the funeral? President Biden's son Hunter goes on Jimmy Kimmel Live. Did they go too far joking about his crack addiction?
I'm surprised you have shoes on.
Yeah,
you know?
pants were the problem. Pants were the problem.
And new music from Prince? The unreleased songs the world will get to hear for the first time. Plus, a trip back in time with Taylor Swift as she releases her first re-recorded album.
Hello, Mr. Perfectly Fine.
Real, honest, entertaining, live. DBL starts right now.
3, 2. Welcome to DBL. It is Friday, April 9th. I am Sam here with Tori and Al. Erica joins us from home. Let's get right to it because we do begin with some sad news out of Britain. Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, has died at the age of 99. The Queen announced his death with deep sorrow. He spent his final days with her at Windsor Castle. The two were married for 73 years. The Queen is expected to enter an 8-day period of mourning. Joining us to talk about this is Stephanie Jones. Stephanie, so put this all into perspective for us. How big is this news in England today, and what can you tell us about Prince Philip that maybe we didn't know?
Obviously, the nation is completely devastated, and everyone is feeling terrible for the Queen. Let's not forget they were married 73 years. That is an amazing achievement within itself, so I can only imagine what she's going through. And he really was a huge support for the Queen and really helped modernise our monarchy. So he was actually the first person that collaborated with the BBC in order to let us have a glimpse into royal life, to see things like coronations and weddings. That was his idea. So I think, you know, he's been a really good modernist. He was very outspoken. He was witty, but slightly controversial a lot of the time. And I think the nation is going to really miss him. He was the backbone for the Queen, and I think she's going to struggle now he's gone.
And Al, before you jump in, Steph, let me just ask you, because I know that you're, constantly in contact with your family over there and your friends. What were some of your conversations with them this morning? Are they like beyond distraught, or the fact that he, passed away respectfully at 99? Does that give anybody peace?
I think obviously his age it's sadly at that type of age, it's normal to pass away, and it's sad that he has had health complications, and I think everyone feels really sympathetic to him. It's been COVID. The UK is still in lockdown. He's not had a regular or a normal life for the last year of his life, which is obviously very sad. Luckily, that means obviously he's no longer been doing any public engagements, but it does still mean he's not been able to see his friends and family or have that love and care and support, which I think a lot of people in England are feeling the same way with their loved ones that are in the similar situation and possibly passing or in hospital. It's very sad.
All right. Now, Steph, I'm going to ask this question on behalf of probably most Americans that got to know Prince Philip through his character on Netflix on the show The Crown. Tell us, is that, like, in your opinion, an accurate depiction of him and, like, who he is and who he was?
I would say absolutely. If you watch The Crown, you'll get a really good insight into parts of his upbringing, his schooling, what made him the way he was, and you'll also see glimpses of him telling Elizabeth to bloody hurry up and get on the boat and stop all this whining on and all sorts. It's exactly how he was.
I'm going to start saying that to you guys.
Don't try, Al.
I will not.
You're not.
Steph, I want to know what you think. What are the chances, and I know this is on everyone's mind, that Prince Harry and Meghan are going to come back for the funeral? That's like, I mean, we're all on pins and needles. What do you think?
Right, okay, so Harry is beloved by, obviously, the Queen, and he's very much reciprocated that. If we look at the Oprah interview, he went out of his way to, over many times, say she was none of the racist comments. He loves her, and they're very, very close. So I think, of course, he's going to go back at her greatest time of need and be there for his family. And I really hope this is going to give them all a chance to air out their dirty laundry in a private manner behind closed doors, sort things out, and hopefully move forwards for him and Meghan and build some bridges. I'm praying for that.
I agree. I hope this brings them together. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for your insight on all of this. We appreciate you. So Hunter Biden is out with a new memoir and is making the media rounds. Last night, he was on Jimmy Kimmel, and Jimmy got to ask him about his infamous laptop that many on the right think is a smoking gun. Here's what Hunter said about that.
No, look, I really don't know. And the fact of the matter is it's a red herring. It is absolutely red herring. But I am absolutely, I think, within my rights to question anything that comes from the desk of Rudy Giuliani. And so I don't know is the answer.
Now, a lot of you online are reacting to some of the jokes Kimmel made about Hunter's addiction to crack cocaine. Take a listen.
You were doing crack at the places that I eat.
Yeah. Well, I not intentionally. I wasn't stalking you.
No. I didn't think you were. But, you know, I feel like I learned a lot about crack. And I know that sounds weird, but you hear about it and you see it on TV shows and, you know, in the news every once in a while. But I learned how to I really think I could get it now, thanks to your book.
Well, I hope that wasn't the message.
So one person tweeted Jimmy Kimmel making lighthearted jokes about crack with Hunter. Sir, addiction jokes in 2021, that's not funny. So what is your take, DBL Nation? We always want to hear from you. I'll be looking at your comments. Is it okay to joke about addiction, in your opinion? Al, you are a stand-up comic. Was this okay in your book?
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't, then go ahead and throw out all your Richard Pryor tapes. I mean,
but that was then. Is it different now?
But is it though? I feel like anything in your life, any issue that you have between your husband, between friends, you're not over it until you can joke about it. Joking about it gives, and they always say comedy plus time plus tragedy equals comedy. You need to have some time pass. You don't want to have the jokes too soon, but you need to be able to really be over something once you can joke about it. So I think it's very necessary to have some humor around tragedy.
I agree. I'm kind of a sad stand-up comic that never really made it, but I will say
you're on TV right now.
Okay, thanks. Okay. But the humor is there, and I get it. I'm just not sure this was the right venue or the right time.
He's on Jimmy Kimmel.
I know, and I'm not sure Jimmy Kimmel is taking this as seriously as many people want. They have questions about Hunter Biden's laptop. They have questions about crack cocaine, and they also feel, a lot of you have written me in and said this feels very white privilege, right? There's a lot of black men, brown men, black women, and the crack epidemic that didn't get to just laugh it off with Jimmy Kimmel. And it feels a little like they're kind of making light of this if you're an addict. I felt a little uncomfortable. I didn't think it was horrible, but not the best venue.
What do you think, Erica? Do you agree with Tori or with Al?
Well, I think that Al is right in terms of, you know, plus time, but there are people who are still serving time because of the crack epidemic. We haven't had a reckoning. I think had it been almost anything else, even if we were talking about cocaine, which had a very much lighter sentence than crack during the 80s. I mean, crack completely disseminated entire communities and put thousands of black men behind bars. This is something that we are still reckoning as a society, and we haven't been honest about the government's involvement. So to have someone who happens to be the son of a sitting president talk about this with Jimmy Kimmel, who's taking this so lightly, really does come across as like a slap in the face.
I agree.
Good conversation. Coming up on DBL, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson for president? Wait till you hear how many people want him to run. Plus, America is getting vaccinated against COVID. The new numbers, plus the other pandemic headlines. And next, attorney and legal analyst Mari Henderson joins us live to break down the latest in the Derek Chauvin trial. We will be right back.
Closed captioning provided by
When it comes to politics, we know that there's a lot of opinion. But here on the Verify team, we stick to the facts. You may have seen headlines like this: Dems could dethrone Iowa, as some Democratic leaders propose moving up the primaries for more diverse states like South Carolina ahead of Iowa and New Hampshire. So let's verify, could the order actually be changed? Our sources are these three political experts from DC and New Hampshire. Our New Hampshire professor tells us that the state has been the first primary since 1920. In 1972, Iowa inched slightly ahead of New Hampshire as the nation's first caucus.
There's not a lot of logic or thought into why we had it first, other than we were first. And once you have it, you want to keep it.
These are really important events, not only because it gives them outsized influence in selecting the presidential nominees, but there are as many reporters and political consultants and staffers in the state as there are citizens. I mean, this brings in a ton of money.
In fact, it's now part of New Hampshire law. The Secretary of State in New Hampshire is authorized to move the primary to always be at least 7 days before any other similar contest.
South Carolina would have to move theirs with an act of the legislature. What we have to do then is wait till it's too late for them to do it again and have the secretary set the date in front of theirs.
So it's a game of chicken that New Hampshire would probably win.
We hold more cards than the other state when it comes to this.
Okay, what about the national party? Can they force Iowa or New Hampshire to let another state go first?
They certainly could step up and say, we're going to end this game of chicken. And whoever continues to do this is going to lose all of their delegates, or you're only going to get 3 delegates at the convention.
So we can verify that the order can be changed, but dethroning states like New Hampshire is not going to be easy. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozlov.
Welcome back to DBL. There was some very important testimony this week in the trial of Derek Chauvin. A number of medical experts were called to the stand to testify about George Floyd's cause of death, including this pulmonary specialist. Here is what he said.
Mr. Floyd died from a low level of oxygen. The cause of the low level of oxygen was shallow breathing. Main forces that are going to lead to the shallow breath are going to be that he's turned prone on the street, that he has the handcuffs in place combined with the street, and then that he has a knee on his neck, and then that he has a knee on his back and on his side.
Horrible details. To help put this into perspective for us, we've got a special guest on the show today. Please welcome legal analyst and former criminal prosecutor Mari Henderson. Now, Mari, many of our viewers have also seen you on ABC News and Good Morning America, so thank you for coming on DBL. And please, Mari, what did you think of this testimony from yesterday? And will the defense be able to come back and try and prove Floyd's death was from some other cause, as they've already stated?
Well, I thought the testimony yesterday was very important. That pulmonologist said 2 things that I think the jury will really latch on to. One, he described the action of Officer Chauvin's knee on George Floyd's neck almost like a surgical procedure of a surgeon removing someone's lungs, which is really powerful testimony. The other important thing he said is that a healthy person would have died from these actions too. And that statement is a real blow to the defense, because the defense is trying to say it was his drug addiction, it was his heart condition, these other things caused the death, and that pulmonologist just totally eviscerated that defense.
Oh, sorry, that was me. I thought it was Al.
That
a lot
was
of
you,
folks.
Tori.
So sorry about.
No,
I was
that
actually
is
interested.
great for our new guest.
Okay, a lot of folks are talking about an email. I'm so sorry, Amari. George Clooney actually sent to Floyd's family attorney Ben Crump, suggesting some kind of demonstration. Can you talk to us about that letter and your take on George Clooney's suggestion?
Well, George Clooney, ever the actor and the director-producer, came up with a stunt that is probably best left for the movies. He said that if Derek Chauvin is so confident in his defense, then he should get up in front of the jury, lay on the ground, and have someone else lean on his neck with their knee for 9 minutes and 29 seconds to see if he survives. Obviously, that would be powerful testimony and evidence, but there's no way that that would ever happen in reality in a courtroom. That kind of a demonstration is nothing a judge would ever allow. I think it was effective that the pulmonologist yesterday took the jurors through a series of exercises where they touched their own throat and Adam's apple and neck to kind of see what was going on. But here, the most powerful testimony is the video. That is what makes this case so different from any other, is the body cam footage, the surveillance footage, bystander footage. There is just video of every second of George Floyd's last moments.
All right, Mari, I want to get back to the testimony. You said that the testimony from the doctor was damning. We also heard from police officers that testified against Officer Chauvin. How damaging was that testimony? And do you think we're at kind of the precipice of seeing a shift in that blue wall where now officers will out other possibly bad officers?
I think that the officer testimony was very strong for the prosecution because the defense basically has two lines of defense here. One, he died for some other reason, and two, that the officer's use of force was appropriate and he was trained to do so. And both were blown out of the water this week because several different use of force experts and members of the Minneapolis Police Department, his own police department, spoke out against him, and they spoke out against him strongly. They said it was totally unnecessary for this level of use of force. And so I think regardless of the shift in culture right now, this is something that officers would have said, because any officer who took the stand and tried to justify his actions that are shown on video would have no credibility whatsoever with this jury.
And Marnie, what do you think the defense's strategy is going to be in the coming weeks, given that we have the video and hearing the testimony, the powerful testimony we heard from the prosecution thus far?
I think their strategy will come down to a battle of the experts. I'm sure they have found experts, expert medical doctors, forensic pathologists, use of force experts potentially, who are willing to say that the fentanyl that he ingested, the methamphetamine that he ingested, and his underlying heart condition were contributing factors to his death, and also potentially that the use of force was reasonable. But what's important to remember here is even if the drug use and the underlying heart condition were contributing factors, all the prosecution needs to prove here for each of these three charges is that it is a substantial factor. So Derek Chauvin putting his knee on George Floyd's neck was a substantial factor causing the death. Even if there are these other contributing factors, that doesn't matter.
Wow, great insight. Thank you so much, Mari Henderson. We appreciate you. We will be right back.
It's only a matter of time until you're...
The stimulus bill expanded the child tax credit for eligible families. It could mean as much as $3,600 per qualified kid. But calculating how much it will get is a little complicated. How much you get per child depends on their age, with kids 5 and under qualifying for the full $3,600, then $3,000 for kids aged 6 to 17, and $500 for an 18-year-old who is still a dependent. How much parents make matters too. So for a single parent, your adjusted gross income needs to be $75,000 or less to get the full amount. While for joint filers, that limit is $150,000. If you make more, the amount you get per child decreases as your income rises. In order to get your payment, you need to file your 2020 taxes, and you won't get your payment in one lump sum. The money will be split between 2021 and 2022. According to CNET, the 2021 portion of the money is expected to start going out in July and will be paid periodically. Though right now, there is no set schedule.
Welcome back to DBL. We've reached another milestone in the ongoing pandemic, and I'm happy to say it is a good one, finally. A quarter of all American adults are fully vaccinated against COVID-19. That's a total of 64 million people with both doses. Woo. That's not the only thing we need to talk about. Roughly the same amount of people are admitting to having less sex than ever before. On top of this lack of intimacy, a new survey says performance anxiety in the bedroom is on the rise. Most people say stress from the pandemic is to blame. All right, Al, you were vocal. You were vocal. Let's hear it.
Man, look, Corona and COVID's taking a lot from all of us, but let's not blame everything on it. Come on, man. Come on, that's on you. Don't blame that. Look, when you're in the bedroom, you need to perform, period.
Oh, that doesn't put the pressure on someone.
No, there should be a little bit of pressure. There should be some pressure. I'm sorry. Yes, you should please your partner.
Yes, you should please your partner, but there's also performance anxiety for many individuals that are suffering right now, and Mr. Albert Jackson is now shaming them.
First of all, thank you for my government name. Second of all, you're not about to run the 100-meter dash in the Olympics, okay? This is a person that you should be comfortable with, and you guys should make sure.
Some people are not, Albert.
Okay, so just throw your hands up and say COVID to everything?
No,
Let's watch a movie again tonight, honey?
No, but sometimes when you have a source, that allows you to be able to deal with it. So
it's been a year.
Oh, Erica, do you want to chime in here?
Hi, Erica.
Hi, Erica. Hi, Erica. Hey, I'm just, I'm chilling over here in the she shed. Yeah. I think that it's a culmination of a bunch of things, because obviously a lot of people have admitted to gaining weight during the pandemic, so they're not comfortable with their bodies. Also, we know that people who actually contracted COVID, not only have we heard that it decreased the libido, but also sperm count. So I think that when we're really talking about it, it might be as biological as it is emotional.
I'll just say in the right circumstances.
Wait, can we hear him respond?
Okay.
Thank you. And then, Tori, I want to Erica, I'm not talking about the people that have contracted COVID. Long COVID is a beast. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about people that have been depressed about it. I mean, you have to get over that at some point. And I don't think it's fair to just blame that. I don't think you can constantly blame that on your performance in the bedroom.
But what if you really are suffering from depression from the lockdown, suffering from depression because you've gained weight? It's going to fall into and leak into the bedroom. It's going to.
Yes, but then you have to do something to mitigate that.
Sorry,
Am I not right, Tori?
Not at all. First of all, this was fascinating. I enjoyed this conversation immensely.
You can't just throw your hands up like.
Agreed, but some people are struggling when you're in that whole, really dark place. I'll be honest, you can't get out so easily out. So don't be so light. The second thing is, if you don't have kids and you're all alone, in my case, it can help.
Oh.
What's that all about?
It can make it more romantic.
But didn't you not have kids before COVID?
No, I'm just saying if you don't have kids to take care of them, we cook, we have wine, we do lots of things together. It's very romantic for some people.
I have no idea what that's like.
Are you saying COVID increased?
I'm just saying some people, it intensified the relationship, and there's also people out there that happened to, and it happened to be with me as well.
All right, that just turned into a humble brag at the end of this segment.
It's a weird flex.
Oh, you guys are struggling? We're killing it. Let's do the next story.
Coming up on DBL, Taylor Swift is back with a new album. Well, kinda. The new take on her old jams, plus The Rock for president. Could he really be our commander-in-chief? We're talking about it later in the show.
With so much of Derek Chauvin's trial focused on the day George Floyd died, we're seeing a lot of conversation about Floyd's life. One tweet says, "The entire world watched the murder of a man. Now we're watching the murder of his memory and his dignity." But we expect to learn more about who Floyd was during this trial. So let's verify. Are family or friends of Floyd testifying in Chauvin's trial? Our sources, court footage and records, Judge Peter Cahill, and 2 criminal law experts.
It was an adventure always with him.
Floyd's girlfriend testified during week 1 of the trial, and she spoke briefly about Floyd and their relationship. But most of the questions focused on his addiction to opioids.
Yes, we did use together.
But in the days ahead, we expect testimony from loved ones that will be more focused on George Floyd's life. And here's why. Minnesota's court system has a unique rule known as the spark of life doctrine. It allows for witnesses who are there just to humanize the victim.
Mr. Floyd in this case is entitled to have the jury realize he was
a human being. He was loved. He had a family.
Prosecutors plan to show photos of Floyd throughout his life and call 2 witnesses, one of Floyd's siblings and an acquaintance from Minnesota.
That's the kind of evidence that most states don't allow because they consider it too prejudicial and not really relevant.
Ted Samsel-Jones is a professor at Mitchell-Hamlin Law School in Minnesota.
It is a hard line to draw.
Here's where it gets complicated. The judge says Spark of Life witnesses can share memories about Floyd to show he was loved, but they can't say anything that could be considered character evidence, like calling him a gentle giant.
As soon as you start getting into propensity for violence or propensity for peacefulness, I think then we're getting into character evidence, and then that does open the door for the defense to cross-examine about his character for peacefulness.
Judge Cahill has made much of Floyd's past inadmissible because it's not relevant to the case. But if a Spark of Life witness oversteps, the judge could change that.
Because it's proper cross-examination. You say X, what about Y?
Then that gives the defense more room to come back and attack his character.
Rachel Moran is a professor at St. Thomas Law School in Minneapolis.
The defense really wants to introduce as much evidence as possible of Mr. Floyd's struggles with drugs.
Court documents show Chauvin's lawyer wants to introduce evidence of prior bad acts should the state exceed the permissible scope of Spark of Life testimony.
That would give the defense the opportunity to say something like, well, wait a minute, what about this time he was convicted of a violent offense?
So we can verify, yes, more family and friends of George Floyd will testify to humanize him, but they're limited in what they can say without opening the door for the defense to go after Floyd's past. With your Verify, I'm Gabe Cohen.
We have a lot of comments. Okay, so Yuchi says, if Hunter put in the book, it is fair game for comics. Robin says, I so disagree with you, Al. Jokes about drugs and addiction are not something to be joked about right now. This whole attitude is like a slap in the face, and Hunter Biden knows where his laptop is.
Oh, she got that last Hunter Biden part in there as well. I just want to know, then, just what are we allowed to joke about? Please tell artists what they're allowed to talk about, and we'll go from there. And then how much music and comedy would you enjoy? I say 0.
It's a fair point.
All right. If you are leaving us, you can watch the second half of the show on Facebook or YouTube. But if you're sticking around, here is what's coming up. Does The Rock really have a shot at being president? Wait till you hear how many people support his campaign. Plus, Taylor Swift just dropped new recordings of her classic hits. But do they live up to the originals? And a big thank you to our co-workers watching from home right now as they work diligently. We appreciate you all. DBL's new every day. We will be right back.
Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about. Real, honest, entertaining, live. DBL starts right now.
Tori is feeling it. Woo! Get it, girl. Welcome to DBL.
Me too.
No, you're not.
I am.
I did not even see a shoulder.
Can't you feel the heat?
I didn't see anything coming from your seat. That was Taylor Swift's re-released version of her song Fearless. I'm Sam, here with Tori and Al. Erica joining us from home. So Taylor Swift dropped the long-awaited re-recording of her Fearless album today. It's the first re-release of the 6 albums she decided to re-record after her masters were sold to Scooter Braun and then to an investment firm. The new version of the Fearless album also includes 6 additional songs from the vault, including this one, Mr. Perfectly Fine. Have a listen.
Everything revolves around you. I've been misery since your goodbye. And you're Mr. Perfectly Fine.
Okay, we're also getting some new music from Prince. Nearly 5 years after his death, his estate announced it's releasing an album he recorded back in 2010. Welcome to America will drop on July 30th. Ooh, I don't even know where to begin here, but I know that you have a lot to say about Taylor Swift, so let's start with that.
Not a lot, just a great album. If you are a fan, and I've been a fan since 2008, I'm serious. Bridget laughed, my executive producer. But I will say this, she re-recorded it with a deeper voice, a more mature voice. She slowed down some of the music. It's just a little bit.
What if we did that on DBL? What if tomorrow we just did this exact same show in a lower tone?
Well, no one else bought us out and took us without our permission, Al.
Look, that's a whole different conversation, but he did invest in her.
That is the conversation.
And he owned those rights. He invested. That's what happens when you invest in an artist before you're Taylor Swift. You're going to have 50 Taylor Swifts that you're going to miss on before you hit on one.
Great. You also have the consequences in which to re-record it. Go ahead.
Yeah, he didn't invest in her. Go ahead, Erica.
He did not. Investing in her would imply that he actually was trying to be a part of her growth. You can't invest in someone who hasn't asked, 1, to be invested in, and 2, who can already invest in themselves. So that's kind of a moot point, Al.
Erica, let me ask you, because I don't know the story, but I do defend.
I don't know the story.
I do. What did I do? I will talk sometimes. I do defend people that, like the people in the industry outside of the artist, that do invest money, studio time, their look, makeup, videos, hoping that they will hit and become big stars and take a percentage of that.
That's not what Scooter Braun did.
What did he do?
Okay, Al,
go ahead, Erica.
No, Al, I'm gonna remind you of what you said earlier, just to help you help yourself. You don't know this story,
That's
and
right.
you are so wrong.
Okay.
Totally right.
Yeah.
Talk to me, because I don't think a lot of Americans know. I'll take it.
Well, what you're referring to, I mean, I feel like this is digging up a very old story. We talked about it ad nauseum. You can check out my Twitter if you wanna. But essentially, you're talking about someone who was able to buy her own masters, and someone else swooped in a private deal in order to undermine her efforts to own what was her creative property. Now, you are a creator. You understand how much of a slap in the face that actually is. So what you're saying isn't really what occurred.
Silence.
We're going to move on to the next story. I think Albert gets it. He definitely gets it. Thank
I know
you,
when to
Al.
shut up.
Yep.
We love you.
Do you?
We love you. Okay, so what do you guys think about The Rock for president? According to a recent online poll, almost half of Americans would like to see the former wrestler in the White House. Dwayne Johnson has been open about his political ambitions in the past and even considered running against President Trump back in 2016. He has said that he would run as an independent. Angelina Jolie came in as the top female celebrity candidate for commander-in-chief, with 30% in favor of her as president. And Matthew McConaughey has said he would consider running for Texas governor. 58% of people polled said they would be in favor both of Matthew and The Rock running for political office. Okay, Tori, so I know you love politics more than anybody. What do you make of this?
So first off, just to know that name recognition is like half of voting. So right now, if you know the name Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, what is he cooking? Is that the thing?
Yes.
What's he smelling? Something like
Can you
that?
smell what The Rock is
Smell what The
cooking?
Rock's cooking.
Okay.
That's a phrase you're familiar with. You trust him. He already has a reputation in your living room, on your cell phone. You have a relationship. Now, when it gets closer and closer, do we really want another entertainer in the White House? That's a question because entertainment, pop culture, and politics have become intertwined. Now, Ronald Reagan was an actor. It's happened before. But
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
We've seen Jesse Ventura. Right, exactly. Even Jerry Springer, mayor, I believe, of Cleveland. Am I right?
Cincinnati, excuse
me. So at some point, it's happened before. You just have to be careful. We're not doing it now just for the celebrity of it. At some point, some folks studied political science and know how to work the system better than, let's say, The Rock.
I don't see how it's a good idea to give one of the most, maybe the most powerful position in the world, Erica, to somebody that has no experience in that field whatsoever. There is no other field where this would even be a conversation. And I think that it's really, we think it's funny. We talk about The Rock, Matthew McConaughey, I like his movies, blah, blah, blah. But when something like a pandemic hits, something like when we're talking about abortion or gun rights, we need to have people that understand the system. They might be boring, but you know what? I want my politician to be a nerd about science. I want them to be a nerd about political process. I don't want them on the red carpet. I need you to be ready when everything hits the fan.
But there's some people, Al, who will say, and Erica, please tell me, they don't want politics anymore. They want those dirty politicians out of D.C.
They feel like that all the politicians right now are in the pocket of somebody else. So either they're in the pocket of the NRA or in the pocket of some other lobbyist, so therefore they don't trust them. Erica?
Well, I think that that's a very broad brush to put on every politician. I know that almost all of us on this panel know someone who has dedicated their entire lives with the best intentions in order to make their community a better place and possibly the entire country one day. So I don't believe that every politician is dirty. I do think that we do have corruption in our system that needs to be addressed. But ultimately, it's interesting that we would talk about how dirty politicians are and bring someone in with absolutely no political background in the past to run this country, and we didn't see that being an issue in some capacity of how everything was thrown up in the air. So I just think we need to be careful about just broadening that broad stroke.
No, I agree
And just to put a button on Erica's point, I think the reason that we don't hear about these people that dedicate their lives is because it's boring. We don't want to read about that. We don't want to read about a community organizer or somebody that volunteers their time, like Erica Cobb. That Erica could be floating on a floaty in her pool, but she's with kids. She doesn't have a pool, but her theoretical pool. But she's with kids that are in danger every day,
I know,
voluntarily. But there's no stories about that.
Right.
And so we don't hear about the good ones.
Very, very well said, Al. Okay, so can you believe it's been...
thank you, Al.
Weird. Can you believe it's been 20 years since Bridget Jones's Diary was released? The hit movie starred Renee Zellweger as Bridget, a woman obsessed with her weight and finding a man. It also starred Colin Firth and Hugh Grant. Now, Sally Phillips, who played Bridget's best friend, told a UK talk show that the movie is still relevant today because women only pretend to be interested in more virtuous things. Take a look.
Oh, nowadays, women don't worry about their weight, and women don't worry about reading self-improving books, and women don't, want more than just a man. But I don't know. I think we don't change. I think we all want the same things.
Glad she said it.
What are you talking about?
I don't think a man could say that, but I think it opens up a very interesting conversation. But I think we might be looking at it from the wrong angle. I think that she's talking about women's perspective, like, well, what do they really value? And I think it's more, we almost remove women and talk about why does society still place these issues on women for them to think about? Because there's a lot of men that'll be right at the pool this weekend, gut hanging over their t-shirt, over their swim trunks, 2 beers in the hand, and they'll be the belle of the ball. Everybody will love them. Women know that they don't have that luxury.
Right, and I think you're missing, there's also a historical context, right, to women needing to look a certain way, having to be a certain way. 2021 has opened us up to that. I think I get what she's saying, but I think she sort of made light of everything. I worry about my weight.
You think she was making light there?
Yeah, I think she sort of made it really casual. I worry about things, but I also worry about social justice and other important items, and I don't just laugh it off. I think there's two things can be held in my head at the same time.
Erica?
Yeah, I think I think Tori's right. When you make a statement like that, first of all, I'm sure this was not the totality of her entire interview, but it was something that, you know, we're talking about. And I think a part of that has to do with the idea that if a woman is really concerned about, am I going to meet my partner? Am I going to get into shape that I feel comfortable with, you know, for the summer? Then a lot of women feel like they aren't the strong woman that everyone talks about. They're not the, you know, the present woman that everyone's cheering for, because they're still considering those things. And the truth is, we can consider all the things, as Tori just stated. Like, there's nothing wrong with, you know, thinking about who your life partner might be, along with how you're going to help in social justice issues. I mean, those things can coexist.
I know. I feel like people forget that you can have duality of thought, that things don't need to be mutually exclusive. Like, for some reason, it's like this way or the highway.
It's black or white with that, and it's not, no pun intended, in terms of race, but it's very odd that we can't be considered complicated creatures.
I know. Okay, so looks like things are getting serious between Travis Barker and Kourtney Kardashian. The two have been dating since the beginning of the year and were recently spotted at a UFC fight in Nevada. Now it looks like Travis is cementing the relationship with some ink. Kourtney posted this photo on Instagram with her name tattooed on his chest, just in case you think this is a bad idea. Travis once had a tattoo of a heart with his ex-wife's name scrolled across it.
I just feel like he kind of hedged his bets there with where that tattoo is located. You couldn't even see it. I'm looking on a high-def TV right now.
You have tattoos. Tell us what you think.
Well, I think he has so many tattoos. If it doesn't work out, he'll
look at that. That's like hidden. It's like
not a big deal.
It's like if I put "I love you, Sam" and then put it in some bushes. Like, yeah, did I put it there? Yeah, but you can't see it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are making a big deal out of this, being like, "Oh man, he's going all in. It's permanent." Listen, homeboy can easily put a rose on top of that and it go away. We all saw what Johnny Depp did.
Oh God, Winona forever?
And then Wino forever. and Johnny Depp didn't have a whole sleeve to hide it, so.
You can cover it up.
Yeah,
I just think it's an indicator of bad decisions.
He's a hopeless romantic. He goes all in his relationships. It's quite cute.
Or he makes terrible decisions.
It's quite cute. Erica?
They've had a long-standing friendship. Maybe it's a friendship tattoo.
Good one, Erica.
It doesn't work out.
Erica, we're close friends. Do you have my name tattooed anywhere on you?
No.
Oh, okay. Tori, Sam, any tattoos?
It's a hard pass for me, Al.
Okay.
That's a hard no. Okay, so we're going to switch gears here because we do have some sad news to report. Rapper DMX has passed away after complications following a heart attack. He was 50 years old. His family confirmed his death at a New York hospital today. In a statement, they said Earl was a warrior who fought till the very end. He loved his family with all of his heart, and we cherish the times we spent with him. Such a tragic story. Since his accident, he's been in a vegetative state on life support. I can't even imagine what his family members must have been thinking, because ultimately they're the ones that are going to have to make that decision. But knowing that the doctor said, Al, he is brain dead, and I'm saying this respectfully, this is exactly what the doctor said, he is brain dead and he's not going to recover. But as a family member, you always want to hold out hope.
Of course, because you do hear the stories about miracles, and if you know DMX in his career, he's a person that's just overcome everything, and just no doubt on the hip hop Mount Rushmore. Back before hip hop was like palatable to the country, when kids like me bought the CD and listened to it while his mom was in TJ Maxx, like DMX holds a different place in our hearts and our memories. And you know, there was somebody earlier, Erica, that commented like, "Oh, you shouldn't joke about crack because we don't talk about things like that." DMX talked about the pain. He talked about his addictions, about his demons, and the reason he resonated with people is because he did that. He didn't hide that. So that's why I say to that person and to everybody, this is why artists talk about things that are difficult to talk about through their art.
Well, I think much to that same conversation earlier when we were talking about the time, there are people who are still dealing with the crack epidemic in real time. We've seen this video that's been circulating of DMX talking about the first time he was introduced to crack. He was tricked into using by someone who he trusted, who was an older man in his community when he was 14 years old, who put the crack into a marijuana or into a joint. So it wasn't as though he even intentionally decided decided to smoke crack. And for a lot of us who understand what the crack epidemic did, that was in the height between the 80s and 90s, the height of the crack epidemic, and how that had a continuing effect on our loved ones. Many of us have lost loved ones due to the crack epidemic, and that is very much a long-standing journey. So when we have these conversations about, is it okay to joke about crack, I think that this is a really great example of why the time is not now. And also the fact that he was a reflection of his community and all of those experiences when rap had gone in a very sleek and polished direction. So there is a whole community that is reeling right now because he represents them, their struggles, and anything that has really touched him has also touched his community and his fans. So a lot of people
Well said,
are
Erica.
mourning his loss.
I know, and our thoughts and prayers to his family. I can't even imagine. May he rest in power. We will be right back.
Closed captioning provided by
When it comes to politics, we know that there's a lot of opinion. But here on the Verify team, we stick to the facts. You may have seen headlines like this: Dems could dethrone Iowa, as some Democratic leaders propose moving up the primaries for more diverse states like South Carolina ahead of Iowa and New Hampshire. So let's verify, could the order actually be changed? Our sources are these three political experts from DC and New Hampshire. Our New Hampshire professor tells us that the state has been the first primary since 1920. In 1972, Iowa inched slightly ahead of New Hampshire as the nation's first caucus.
There's not a lot of logic or thought into why we had it first, other than we were first. And once you have it, you want to keep it.
These are really important events, not only because it gives them outsized influence in selecting the presidential nominees, but there are as many reporters and political consultants and staffers in the state as there are citizens. I mean, this brings in a ton of money.
In fact, it's now part of New Hampshire law. The Secretary of State in New Hampshire is authorized to move the primary to always be at least 7 days before any other similar contest.
South Carolina would have to move theirs with an act of the legislature. What we have to do then is wait till it's too late for them to do it again and have the secretary set the date in front of theirs.
So it's a game of chicken that New Hampshire would probably win.
We hold more cards than the other state when it comes to this.
Okay, what about the national party? Can they force Iowa or New Hampshire to let another state go first?
They certainly could step up and say, we're going to end this game of chicken. And whoever continues to do this is going to lose all of their delegates, or you're only going to get 3 delegates at the convention.
So we can verify that the order can be changed, but dethroning states like New Hampshire is not going to be easy. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozloff.
Welcome back to DBL. Today's Heart Threads is all about love and appreciation. Watch this mama's boy hug his mother after COVID lockdowns kept them apart for 1 whole year. This baby boy got to hug his mama again after a year apart. The pandemic forced a halt to in-person visits to nursing homes.
The visits were nice, but they're not the same thing.
But as COVID vaccines are administered, the restrictions are loosening.
The regulation just changed last week that allowed us to have indoor visits in people's rooms. If the elder has been vaccinated, then they can do hug visits.
Now Glenn McKern and his mother Maxine can finally hug again.
Hi.
Hi, son.
Hi, Mama.
Love you. My son came to see me. He brought kisses and hugs.
The visit meant so much to mother and son.
I'm her youngest son, and I've always been a mama's boy.
My son came to see me. I just can't hardly believe it.
The pandemic has given Glenn and his family a greater appreciation.
We appreciate small things much more than your mom is a hug from your mom, but after a year, it's a whole different ballgame.
Go hug a family member right now. We'll be right back.
The stimulus bill expanded the child tax credit for eligible families. It could mean as much as $3,600 per qualified kid. But calculating how much it will get is a little complicated. How much you get per child depends on their age, with kids 5 and under qualifying for the full $3,600, then $3,000 for kids aged 6 to 17, and $500 for an 18-year-old who is still a dependent. How much parents make matters too. So for a single parent, your adjusted gross income needs to be $75,000 or less to get the full amount. While for joint filers, that limit is $150,000. If you make more, the amount you get per child decreases as your income rises. In order to get your payment, you need to file your 2020 taxes, and you won't get your payment in one lump sum. The money will be split between 2021 and 2022. According to CNET, the 2021 portion of the money is expected to start going out in July and will be paid periodically. Though right now, there is no set schedule.
Welcome back to DBL. When it comes to your health, how often should you be exercising? We are chatting about it on DBL's Focus on Fitness presented by QB. You need to find that happy medium with your body. If you exercise too much, you can actually overeat as a result. If you're not active enough, you won't see any results. So experts say the key here is to do 30 minutes of exercise a day. It doesn't need to be strenuous. Take a walk, do at-home exercises, anything that gets your body moving. Staying active is so important, and QB has made it easy. QB is changing the way the world thinks about fitness, regardless of physical ability or age. Try their under-desk elliptical at home. Call 1-800-782-2351 or visit QB.com to learn more. We'll be right back.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by
With so much of Derek Chauvin's trial focused on the day George Floyd died, we're seeing a lot of conversation about Floyd's life. One tweet says, "The entire world watched the murder of a man. Now we're watching the murder of his memory and his dignity." But we expect to learn more about who Floyd was during this trial. So let's verify. Are family or friends of Floyd testifying in Chauvin's trial? Our sources, court footage and records, Judge Peter Cahill, and 2 criminal law experts.
It was an adventure always with him.
Floyd's girlfriend testified during week 1 of the trial, and she spoke briefly about Floyd and their relationship. But most of the questions focused on his addiction to opioids.
Yes, we did use together.
But in the days ahead, we expect testimony from loved ones that will be more focused on George Floyd's life. And here's why. Minnesota's court system has a unique rule known as the spark of life doctrine. It allows for witnesses who are there just to humanize the victim.
Mr. Floyd in this case is entitled to have the jury realize he was a human being, he was loved, he had a family.
Prosecutors plan to show photos of Floyd throughout his life and call 2 witnesses, one of Floyd's siblings and an acquaintance from Minnesota.
That's the kind of evidence that most states don't allow because they consider it too prejudicial and not really relevant.
Ted Samsel-Jones is a professor at Mitchell-Hamlin Law School in Minnesota.
It is a hard line to draw.
Here's where it gets complicated. The judge says spark of life witnesses can share memories about Floyd to show he was loved, but they can't say anything that could be considered character evidence, like calling him a gentle giant.
As soon as you start getting into propensity for violence or propensity for peacefulness, I think then we're getting into character evidence, and then that does open the door for the defense to cross-examine about his character for peacefulness.
Judge Cahill has made much of Floyd's past inadmissible because it's not relevant to the case. But if a spark of life witness oversteps, the judge could change that.
Because it's proper cross-examination. You say X, what about Y?
Then that gives the defense more room to come back and attack his character.
Rachel Moran is a professor at St. Thomas Law School in Minneapolis.
The defense really wants to introduce as much evidence as possible of Mr. Floyd's struggles with drugs.
Court documents show Chauvin's lawyer wants to introduce evidence of prior bad acts should the state exceed the permissible scope of spark of life testimony.
That would give the defense the opportunity to say something like, well, wait a minute, what about this time he was convicted of a violent offense?
So we can verify, yes, more family and friends of George Floyd will testify to humanize him, but they're limited in what they can say without opening the door for the defense to go after Floyd's past. With your Verify, I'm Gabe Cohen.
Next week on DBL, a Monday you cannot miss. TV icon John Stamos is here and having way too much fun.
You go low, I go high.
And later, that's hot. The one and only Paris Hilton joins us to talk about her life today and the activism that inspires her. That's next week on DBL.
You cannot miss a single day. Okay, so Tori, you have comments?
Yes, Damon wrote in and says, I've been hearing my teen daughter blast Taylor Swift all morning. I'm already over it. And Melanie says Taylor Swift is taking back her career and I'm here for it. I just have to say something clever on the cover of Fearless. It used to be Romeo and Juliet kind of story and she needed to be saved by the prince. On the new Fearless, she's wearing the Romeo shirt herself.
Cool.
She doesn't need a Romeo. It's her.
I want to get this in really quickly. I got a text from my buddy Joey at 12:16 before I said what I said about DMX, and he texted me reciting DMX verses when I was a homeless teenager gave me confidence and hope.
Wow.
We lost a real one, so he affected a lot of people.
Yeah, well said. DBL's new every day. We'll see you Monday. Bye, guys. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Here's what we're talking about today on Daily Blast Live.
Queen Elizabeth reacts to the death of her husband of 73 years, Prince Philip. Will Harry and Meghan travel back for the funeral? President Biden's son Hunter goes on Jimmy Kimmel Live. Did they go too far joking about his crack addiction?
I'm surprised you have shoes on.
Yeah,
you know?
Pants were the problem. Pants were the problem.
And new music from Prince? The unreleased songs the world will get to hear for the first time. Plus, a trip back in time with Taylor Swift as she releases her first re-recorded album.
Hello, Mr. Perfectly Fine. Real, honest, entertaining, live. DBL starts right now.
3, 2. Welcome to DBL. It is Friday, April 9th. I am Sam here with Tori and Al. Erica joins us from home. Let's get right to it because we do begin with some sad news out of Britain. Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, has died at the age of 99. The Queen announced his death with deep sorrow. He spent his final days with her at Windsor Castle. The two were married for 73 years. The Queen is expected to enter an 8-day period of mourning. Joining us to talk about this is Stephanie Jones. Stephanie, so put this all into perspective for us. How big is this news in England today, and what can you tell us about Prince Philip that maybe we didn't know?
Obviously, the nation is completely devastated, and everyone is feeling terrible for the Queen. Let's not forget they were married 73 years. That is an amazing achievement within itself, so I can only imagine what she's going through. And he really was a huge support for the Queen and really helped modernise our monarchy. So he was actually the first person that collaborated with the BBC in order to let us have a glimpse into royal life, to see things like coronations and weddings. That was his idea. So I think, you know, he's been a really good modernist. He was very outspoken. He was witty but slightly controversial a lot of the time. And I think the nation is going to really miss him. He was the backbone for the Queen, and I think she's going to struggle now he's gone.
And Al, before you jump in, Steph, let me just ask you, because I know that you're, you know, constantly in contact with your family over there and your friends. What were some of your conversations with them this morning? Are they like beyond distraught, or the fact that he, you know, passed away respectfully at 99? Does that give anybody peace?
I think obviously his age it's sadly at that type of age, it's normal to pass away, and it's sad that he has had health complications, and I think everyone feels really sympathetic to him. It's been COVID. The UK is still in lockdown. He's not had a regular or a normal life for the last year of his life, which is obviously very sad. Luckily, that means obviously he's no longer doing any public engagements, but it does still mean he's not been able to see his friends and family or have that love and care and support, which I think a lot of people in England are feeling the same way with their loved ones that are in the similar situation and possibly passing or in hospital. It's very sad.
All right. Now, Steph, I'm going to ask this question on behalf of probably most Americans that got to know Prince Philip through his character on Netflix on the show The Crown. Tell us, is that, like, in your opinion, an accurate depiction of him and like who he is and who he was?
I would say absolutely. If you watch The Crown, you'll get a really good insight into parts of his upbringing, his schooling, what made him the way he was, and you'll also see glimpses of him telling Elizabeth to bloody hurry up and get on the boat and stop all this whining on and all sorts. It's exactly how he was.
I'm gonna start saying that to you guys.
Don't try.
I will not.
You're not.
Steph, I want to know what you think. What are the chances? And I know this is on everyone's mind that Prince Harry and Meghan are going to come back for the funeral. That's like, I mean, we're all on pins and needles. What do you think?
Right, okay, so Harry is beloved by, obviously, the Queen, and he's very much reciprocated that. If we look at the Oprah interview, he went out of his way to, many times, say she was none of the racist comments. He loves her, and they're very, very close. So I think, of course, he's going to go back at her greatest time of need and be there for his family. And I really hope this is going to give them all a chance to air out their dirty laundry in a private manner behind closed doors, sort things out, and hopefully move forward forwards for him and Meghan and build some bridges. I'm praying for that.
I agree. I hope this brings them together. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for your insight on all of this. We appreciate you. So Hunter Biden is out with a new memoir and is making the media rounds. Last night, he was on Jimmy Kimmel, and Jimmy got to ask him about his infamous laptop that many on the right think is a smoking gun. Here's what Hunter said about that.
No, look, I really don't know. And the fact of the matter is it's a red herring. It is absolutely red herring. But I am absolutely, I think, within my rights to question anything that comes from the desk of Rudy Giuliani. And so I don't know is the answer.
Now, a lot of you online are reacting to some of the jokes Kimmel made about Hunter's addiction to crack cocaine. Take a listen.
You were doing crack at the places that I eat.
Yeah. Well, not intentionally. I wasn't stalking you.
No. I didn't think you were. But, I feel like I learned a lot about crack. And I know that sounds weird, but you hear about it and you see it on TV shows and, in the news every once in a while. But I learned how to I really think I could get it now, thanks to your book.
Well, I hope that wasn't the message.
So one person tweeted Jimmy Kimmel making lighthearted jokes about crack with Hunter. Sir, addiction jokes in 2021, that's not funny. So what is your take, DBL Nation? We always want to hear from you. I'll be looking at your comments. Is it okay to joke about addiction, in your opinion? Al, you are a stand-up comic. Was this okay in your book?
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't, then go ahead and throw out all your Richard Pryor tapes. I mean,
but that was then. Is it different now?
But is it, though? I feel like anything in your life, any issue that you have between your husband, between friends, you're not over it until you can joke about it. Joking about it gives, and they always say comedy plus time plus tragedy equals comedy. You need to have some time pass. You don't want to have the jokes too soon, but you need to be able to really be over something once you can joke about it. So I think it's very necessary to have some humor around tragedy.
I agree. I'm kind of a sad stand-up comic that never really made it, but I will say
you're on TV right now.
Okay, thanks. Okay. But the humor is there, and I get it. I'm just not sure this was the right venue or the right time.
He's on Jimmy Kimmel.
I know, and I'm not sure Jimmy Kimmel is taking this as seriously as many people want. They have questions about Hunter Biden's laptop. They have questions about crack cocaine, and they also feel, a lot of you have written me in and said this feels very white privilege, right? There's a lot of black men, brown men, black women, and the crack epidemic that didn't get to just laugh it off with Jimmy Kimmel. And it feels a little like they're kind of making light of this if you're an addict. I felt a little uncomfortable. I didn't think it was horrible, but not the best venue.
What do you think, Erica? Do you agree with Tori or with Al?
Well, I think that Al is right in terms of, plus time, but there are people who are still serving time because of the crack epidemic. We haven't had a reckoning. I think had it been almost anything else, even if we were talking about cocaine, which had a very much lighter sentence than crack during the 80s. I mean, crack completely disseminated entire communities and put thousands of black men behind bars. This is something that we are still reckoning as a society, and we haven't been honest about the government's involvement. So to have someone who happens to be the son of a sitting president talk about this with Jimmy Kimmel, who's taking this so lightly, really does come across as like a slap in the face.
I agree.
Good conversation. Coming up on DBL, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson for president? Wait till you hear how many people want him to run. Plus, America is getting vaccinated against COVID. The new numbers, plus the other pandemic headlines. And next, attorney and legal analyst Mari Henderson joins us live to break down the latest in the Derek Chauvin trial. We will be right back.
Closed captioning provided by...
When it comes to politics, we know that there's a lot of opinion. But here on the Verify team, we stick to the facts. You may have seen headlines like this: Dems could dethrone Iowa, as some Democratic leaders propose moving up the primaries for more diverse states like South Carolina ahead of Iowa and New Hampshire. So let's verify. Could the order actually be changed? Our sources are these three political experts from DC and New Hampshire. Our New Hampshire professor tells us that the state has been the first primary since 1920. In 1972, Iowa inched slightly ahead of New Hampshire as the nation's first caucus.
There's not a lot of logic or thought into why we had it first, other than we were first. And once you have it, you want to keep it.
These are really important events, not only because it gives them outsized influence in selecting the presidential nominees,
But there are as many reporters and political consultants and staffers in the state as there are citizens. I mean, this brings in a ton of money.
In fact, it's now part of New Hampshire law. The Secretary of State in New Hampshire is authorized to move the primary to always be at least 7 days before any other similar contest.
South Carolina would have to move theirs with an act of the legislature. What we have to do then is wait till it's too late for them to do it again and have the secretary set the date in front of theirs.
So it's a game of chicken that New Hampshire would probably win.
We hold more cards than the other state when it comes to this.
Okay, what about the national party? Can they force Iowa or New Hampshire to let another state go first?
They certainly could step up and say, we're going to end this game of chicken. And whoever continues to do this is going to lose all of their delegates. So you're only going to get 3 delegates at the convention.
So we can verify that the order can be changed. But dethroning states like New Hampshire is not going to be easy. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozloff.
Welcome back to DBL. There was some very important testimony this week in the trial of Derek Chauvin. A number of medical experts were called to the stand to testify about George Floyd's cause of death, including this pulmonary specialist. Here is what he said.
Mr. Floyd died from a low level of oxygen. The cause of the low level of oxygen was shallow breathing. Main forces that are going to lead to the shallow breath are going to be that he's turned prone on the street, that he has the handcuffs in place combined with the street, and then that he has a knee on his neck, and then that he has a knee on his back and on his side.
Horrible details. To help put this into perspective for us, we've got a special guest on the show today. Please welcome legal analyst and former criminal prosecutor, Mari Henderson. Now, Mari, many of our viewers have also seen you on ABC News and Good Morning America, so thank you for coming on DBL. And please, Mari, what did you think of this testimony from yesterday? And will the defense be able to come back and try and prove Floyd's death was from some other cause, as they've already stated?
Well, I thought the testimony yesterday was very important. That pulmonologist said 2 things that I think the jury will really latch on to. One, he described the action of Officer Chauvin's knee on George Floyd's neck almost like a surgical procedure of a surgeon removing someone's lungs, which is really powerful testimony. The other important thing he said is that a healthy person would have died from these actions too. And that statement is a real blow to the defense, because the defense is trying to say it was his drug addiction, it was his heart condition, these other things caused the death, and that pulmonologist just totally eviscerated that defense.
Oh, sorry, that was me. I thought it was Al.
That was you, Tori.
So sorry about. I was actually
interested. Great for our new guest.
Okay, a lot of folks are talking about an email. I'm so sorry, Amari. George Clooney actually sent to Floyd's family attorney Ben Crump, suggesting some kind of demonstration. Can you talk to us about that letter and your take on George Clooney's suggestion?
Well, George Clooney, ever the actor and the director-producer, came up with a stunt that is probably best left for the movies. He said that if Derek Chauvin is so confident in his defense, then he should get up in front of the jury, lay on the ground, and have someone else lean on his neck with their knee for 9 minutes and 29 seconds to see if he survives. Obviously, that would be powerful testimony and evidence, but there's no way that that would ever happen in reality in a courtroom. That kind of a demonstration is nothing a judge would ever allow. I think it was effective that the pulmonologist yesterday took the jurors through a series of exercises where they touched their own throat and Adam's apple and neck to kind of see what was going on. But here, the most powerful testimony is the video. That is what makes this case so different from any other, is the body cam footage, the surveillance footage, bystander footage. There is just video of every second of George Floyd's last moments.
All right, Mari, I want to get back to the testimony. You said that the testimony from the doctor was damning. We also heard from police officers that testified against Officer Chauvin. How damaging was that testimony? And do you think we're at kind of the precipice of seeing a shift in that blue wall where now officers will out other possibly bad officers?
I think that the officer testimony was very strong for the prosecution because the defense basically has two lines of defense here. One, he died for some other reason, and two, that the officer's use of force was appropriate and he was trained to do so. And both were blown out of the water this week because several different use of force experts and members of the Minneapolis Police Department, his own police department, spoke out against him, and they spoke out against him strongly. They said it was totally unnecessary for this level of use of force. And so I think regardless of the shift in culture right now, this is something that officers would have said, because any officer who took the stand and tried to justify his actions that are shown on video would have no credibility whatsoever with this jury.
And Marnie, what do you think the defense's strategy is going to be in the coming weeks, given that we have the video and hearing the testimony, the powerful testimony we heard from the prosecution thus far?
I think their strategy will come down to a battle of the experts. I'm sure they have found experts, expert medical doctors, forensic pathologists, use of force experts potentially, who are willing to say that the fentanyl that he ingested, the methamphetamine that he ingested, and his underlying heart condition were contributing factors to his death, and also potentially that the use of force was reasonable. But what's important to remember here is even if the drug use and the underlying heart condition were contributing factors, all the prosecution needs to prove here for each of these three charges is that it is a substantial factor. So Derek Chauvin putting his knee on George Floyd's neck was a substantial factor causing the death. Even if there are these other contributing factors, that doesn't matter.
Wow, great insight. Thank you so much, Mari Henderson. We appreciate you. We will be right back.
It's only a matter of time until your check engine light comes on, or worse yet,
the stimulus bill expanded the child tax credit for eligible families. It could mean as much as $3,600 per qualified kid. But calculating how much it will get is a little complicated. How much you get per child depends on their age, with kids 5 and under qualifying for the full $3,600, then $3,000 for kids aged 6 to 17, and $500 for an 18-year-old who is still a dependent. How much parents make matters too. So for a single parent, your adjusted gross income needs to be $75,000 or less to get the full amount. While for joint filers, that limit is $150,000. If you make more, the amount you get per child decreases as your income rises. In order to get your payment, you need to file your 2020 taxes, and you won't get your payment in one lump sum. The money will be split between 2021 and 2022. According to CNET, the 2021 portion of the money is expected to start going out in July and will be paid periodically. Though right now, there is no set schedule.
Welcome back to DBL. We've reached another milestone in the ongoing pandemic, and I'm happy to say it is a good one, finally. A quarter of all American adults are fully vaccinated against COVID-19. That's a total of 64 million people with both doses. Woo. That's not the only thing we need to talk about. Roughly the same amount of people are admitting to having less sex than ever before. On top of this lack of intimacy, a new survey says performance anxiety in the bedroom is on the rise. Most people say stress from the pandemic is to blame. All right, Al, you were vocal. You were vocal. Let's hear it.
Man, look, Corona and COVID's taking a lot from all of us, but let's not blame everything on it. Come on, man. Come on, that's on you. Don't blame that. Look, when you're in the bedroom, you need to perform, period.
Oh, that doesn't put the pressure on someone.
No, there should be a little bit of pressure. There should be some pressure. I'm sorry. Yes, you should please your partner.
Yes, you should please your partner, but there's also performance anxiety for many individuals that are suffering right now, and Mr. Albert Jackson is now shaming them.
First of all, thank you for my government name. Second of all, you're not about to run the 100-meter dash in the Olympics, okay? This is a person that you should be comfortable with, and you guys should make sure.
Some people are not, Albert.
Okay, so just throw your hands up and say COVID to everything?
No,
Let's watch a movie again tonight, honey?
No, but sometimes when you have a source, that allows you to be able to deal with it. So
it's been a year.
Oh, Erica, do you want to chime in here?
Hi, Erica.
Hi, Erica. Hi, Erica. Hey, I'm just, I'm chilling over here in the she shed. Yeah. I think that it's a culmination of a bunch of things, because obviously a lot of people have admitted to gaining weight during the pandemic, so they're not comfortable with their bodies. Also, we know that people who actually contracted COVID, not only have we heard that it decreased the libido, but also sperm count. So I think that when we're really talking about it, it might be as biological as it is emotional.
I'll just say in the right circumstances.
Wait, can we hear him respond?
Okay.
Thank you. And then Tori, I want to just, Erica, I'm not talking about the people that have contracted COVID. Long COVID is a beast. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about people that have been depressed about it. I mean, you have to get over that at some point. And I don't think it's fair to just blame that. I don't think you can constantly blame that on your performance in the bedroom.
But what if you really are suffering from depression from the lockdown, suffering from depression because you've gained weight? It's going to fall into and leak into the bedroom. It's going to.
Yes, but then you have to do something to mitigate that.
Sorry,
Am I not right, Tori?
Not at all. First of all, this was fascinating. I enjoyed this conversation immensely.
You can't just throw your hands up like.
Agreed, but some people are struggling when you're in that really dark place. I'll be honest, you can't get out so easily out. So don't be so light. The second thing is, if you don't have kids and you're all alone, in my case, it can help.
Oh.
What's that all about?
It can make it more romantic.
But didn't you not have kids before COVID?
No, I'm just saying if you don't have kids to take care of them, we cook, we have wine, we do lots of things together. It's very romantic for some people.
I have no idea what that's like.
Are you saying COVID increased?
I'm just saying some people, it intensified the relationship, and there's also people out there that happened to, and it happened to be with me as well.
All right, that just turned into a humble brag at the end of this segment.
It's a weird flex.
Oh, you guys are struggling? We're killing it. Let's do the next story.
Coming up on DBL, Taylor Swift is back with a new album. Well, kinda. The new take on her old jams, plus The Rock for president. Could he really be our commander-in-chief? We're talking about it later in the show.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by
With so much of Derek Chauvin's trial focused on the day George Floyd died, we're seeing a lot of conversation about Floyd's life. One tweet says, "The entire world watched the murder of a man. Now we're watching the murder of his memory and his dignity." But we expect to learn more about who Floyd was during this trial. So let's verify. Are family or friends of Floyd testifying in Chauvin's trial? Our sources, court footage and records, Judge Peter Cahill, and 2 criminal law experts.
It was an adventure always with him.
Floyd's girlfriend testified during week 1 of the trial, and she spoke briefly about Floyd and their relationship, but most of the questions focused on his addiction to opioids.
Yes, we did use together.
But in the days ahead, we expect testimony from loved ones that will be more focused on George Floyd's life, and here's why. Minnesota's court system has a unique rule known as the spark of life doctrine. It allows for witnesses who are there just to humanize the victim.
Mr. Floyd in this case is entitled to have the jury realize he was a human being, he was loved, he had a family.
Prosecutors plan to show photos of Floyd throughout his life and call 2 witnesses, one of Floyd's siblings and an acquaintance from Minnesota.
That's the kind of evidence that most states don't allow because they consider it too prejudicial and not really relevant.
Ted Samsel-Jones is a professor at Mitchell-Hamlin Law School in Minnesota.
It is a hard line to draw.
Here's where it gets complicated. The judge says spark of life witnesses can share memories about Floyd to show he was loved, but they can't say anything that could be considered character evidence, like calling him a gentle giant.
As soon as you start getting into propensity for violence or propensity for peacefulness, I think then we're getting into character evidence, and then that does open the door for the defense to cross-examine about his character for peacefulness.
Judge Cahill has made much of Floyd's past inadmissible because it's not relevant to the case. But if a spark of life witness oversteps, the judge could change that.
Because it's proper cross-examination. You say X, what about Y?
Then that gives the defense more room to come back and attack his character.
Rachel Moran is a professor at St. Thomas Law School in Minneapolis.
The defense really wants to introduce as much evidence as possible of Mr. Floyd's struggles with drugs.
Court documents show Chauvin's lawyer wants to introduce evidence of prior bad acts should the state exceed the permissible scope of spark of life testimony.
That would give the defense the opportunity to say something like, well, wait a minute, what about this time he was convicted of a violent offense?
So we can verify, yes, more family and friends of George Floyd will testify to humanize him, but they're limited in what they can say without opening the door for the defense to go after Floyd's past. With your Verify, I'm Gabe Cohen.
We have a lot of comments. Okay, so Yuchi says, if Hunter put in the book, it is fair game for comics. Robin says, I so disagree with you, Al. Jokes about drugs and addiction are not something to be joked about right now. This whole attitude is like a slap in the face, and Hunter Biden knows where his laptop is.
Oh, she got that last Hunter Biden part in there as well. I just want to know, then, just what are we allowed to joke about? Please tell artists what they're allowed to talk about, and we'll go from there. And then how much music and comedy would you enjoy? I say 0.
It's a fair point.
All right. If you are leaving us, you can watch the second half of the show on Facebook or YouTube. But if you're sticking around, here is what's coming up. Does The Rock really have a shot at being president? Wait till you hear how many people support his campaign. Plus, Taylor Swift just dropped new recordings of her classic hits. But do they live up to the originals? And a big thank you to our co-workers watching from home right now as they work diligently. We appreciate you all. DBL's new every day. We will be right back.
This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about. Real, honest, entertaining, live. DBL starts right now.
Tori is feeling it. Woo! Get it, girl. Welcome to DBL.
Me too.
No, you're not.
I am.
I did not even see a shoulder.
Can't you feel the heat?
I didn't see anything coming from your seat. That was Taylor Swift's re-released version of her song Fearless. I'm Sam here with Tori and Al. Erica joining us from home. So Taylor Swift dropped the long-awaited re-recording of her Fearless album today. It's the first re-release of the 6 albums she decided to re-record after her masters were sold to Scooter Braun and then to an investment firm. The new version of the Fearless album also includes 6 additional songs from the vault, including this one, Mr. Perfectly Fine. Have a listen.
Everything revolves around you. I've been misery since your goodbye, and you're Mr. Perfectly Fine.
Okay, we're also getting some new music from Prince. Nearly 5 years after his death, his estate announced it's releasing an album he recorded back in 2010. Welcome to America will drop on July 30th. Ooh, I don't even know where to begin here, but I know that you have a lot to say about Taylor Swift, so let's start with that.
Not a lot, just a great album. If you are a fan, and I've been a fan since 2008, I'm serious. Bridget just laughed, my executive producer. But I will say this, she re-recorded it with a deeper voice, a more mature voice. She slowed down some of the music. It's just a little bit.
What if we did that on DBL? What if tomorrow we just did this exact same show in a lower tone?
Well, no one else bought us out and took us without our permission, Al.
Look, that's a whole different conversation, but he did invest in her.
That is the conversation.
And he owned those rights. He invested. That's what happens when you invest in an artist before you're Taylor Swift. You're going to have 50 Taylor Swifts that you're going to miss on before you hit on one.
Great. You also have the consequences in which to re-record it. Go ahead.
Yeah, he didn't invest in her. Go ahead, Erica.
He did not. Investing in her would imply that he actually was trying to be a part of her growth. You can't invest in someone who hasn't asked, 1, to be invested in, and 2, who can already invest in themselves. So that's kind of a moot point, Al.
Erica, let me ask you, because I don't know the story, but I do defend.
I don't know the story.
I do. What did I do? Look, I will talk sometimes. I do defend people that, like the people in the industry outside of the artist, that do invest money, studio time, their look, makeup, videos, hoping that they will hit and become big stars and take a percentage of that.
That's not what Scooter Braun did.
What did he do?
Okay, Al,
go ahead, Erica.
No, Al, I'm gonna remind you of what you said earlier, just to help you help yourself. You don't know this story,
That's
and
right.
you are so wrong.
Okay.
Totally right.
Yeah.
Talk to me, because I don't think a lot of Americans know. I'll take it.
Well, what you're referring to, I mean, I feel like this is digging up a very old story. We talked about it ad nauseum. You can check out my Twitter if you wanna. But essentially, you're talking about someone who was able to buy her own masters, and someone else swooped in a private deal in order to undermine her efforts to own what was her creative property. Now, you are a creator. You understand how much of a slap in the face that actually is. So what you're saying isn't really what occurred.
Silence.
We're going to move on to the next story. I think Albert gets it. He definitely gets it.
I know when to shut up.
Yep.
We love you.
Do you?
We love you. Okay, so what do you guys think about The Rock for president? According to a recent online poll, almost half of Americans would like to see the former wrestler in the White House. Dwayne Johnson has been open about his political ambitions in the past and even considered running against President Trump back in 2016. He has said that he would run as an independent. Angelina Jolie came in as the top female celebrity candidate for commander-in-chief, with 30% in favor of her as president. And Matthew McConaughey has said he would consider running for Texas governor. 58% of people polled said they would be in favor both of Matthew and The Rock running for political office. Okay, Tori, so I know you love politics more than anybody. What do you make of this?
So first off, just to know that name recognition is like half of voting. So right now, if you know the name Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, what is he cooking? Is that the thing?
Yes.
What's he smelling? Something like
Can you
that?
smell what The Rock is
Smell what The
cooking?
Rock's cooking.
Okay.
That's a phrase you're familiar with. You trust him. He already has a reputation in your living room, on your cell phone. You have a relationship. Now, when it gets closer and closer, do we really want another entertainer in the White House? That's a question, because entertainment, pop culture, and politics have become intertwined. Now, Ronald Reagan was an actor. It's happened before. But
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
We've seen Jesse Ventura. Right, exactly. Even Jerry Springer, mayor, I believe, of Cleveland. Am I right?
Cincinnati,
excuse me. So at some point, it's happened before. You just have to be careful. We're not doing it now just for the celebrity of it. At some point, some folks studied political science and know how to work the system better than, let's say, The Rock.
I don't see how it's a good idea to give one of the most, maybe the most powerful position in the world, Erica, to somebody that has no experience in that field whatsoever. There is no other field where this would even be a conversation. And I think that it's really, we think it's funny. We talk about The Rock, Matthew McConaughey, I like his movies, blah, blah, blah. But when something like a pandemic hits, something like when we're talking about abortion or gun rights, we need to have people that understand the system. They might be boring, but you know what? I want my politician to be a nerd about science. I want them to be a nerd about political process. I don't want them on the red carpet. I need you to be ready when everything hits the fan.
But there's some people, Al, who will say, and Erica, please help me, they don't want politics anymore. They want those dirty politicians out of D.C.
They feel like that all the politicians right now are in the pocket of somebody else. So either they're in the pocket of the NRA or in the pocket of some other lobbyist, so therefore they don't trust them. Erica?
Well, I think that that's a very broad brush to put on every politician. I know that almost all of us on this panel know someone who has dedicated their entire lives with the best intentions in order to make their community a better place and possibly the entire country one day. So I don't believe that every politician is dirty. I do think that we do have corruption in our system that needs to be addressed. But ultimately, it's interesting that we would talk about how dirty politicians are and bring someone in with absolutely no political background in the past to run this country, and we didn't see that being an issue in some capacity of how everything was thrown up in the air. So I just think we need to be careful about just broadening that broad stroke.
No, I agree with you.
And just to put a button on Erica's point, I think the reason that we don't hear about these people that dedicate their lives is because it's boring. We don't want to read about that. We don't want to read about a community organizer or somebody that volunteers their time, like Erica Cobb. That Erica could be floating on a floaty in her pool, but she's with kids. She doesn't have a pool, but her theoretical pool. But she's with kids that are in danger every day,
I know,
voluntarily. But there's no stories about that,
right?
And so we don't hear about the good ones.
Very, very well said, Al. Okay, so can you believe it's been?
Thank you, Al.
Weird. Can you believe it's been 20 years since Bridget Jones's Diary was released? The hit movie starred Renee Zellweger as Bridget, a woman obsessed with her weight and finding a man. It also starred Colin Firth and Hugh Grant. Now, Sally Phillips, who played Bridget's best friend, told a UK talk show that the movie is still relevant today because women only pretend to be interested in more virtuous things. Take a look.
Oh, nowadays, women don't worry about their weight, and women don't worry about reading self-improving books, and women don't, want more than just a man. But I don't know. I think we don't change. I think we all want the same things.
Glad she said it.
What are you talking about?
I don't think a man could say that, but I think it opens up a very interesting conversation. But I think we might be looking at it from the wrong angle. I think that she's talking about women's perspective, like, well, what do they really value? And I think it's more, we almost remove women and talk about why does society still place these issues on women for them to think about? Because there's a lot of men that'll be right at the pool this weekend, gut hanging over their t-shirt, over their swim trunks, 2 beers in the hand, and they'll be the belle of the ball. Everybody will love them. Women know that they don't have that luxury.
Right, and I think you're missing, there's also a historical context, right, to women needing to look a certain way, having to be a certain way. 2021 has opened opened us up to that. I think I get what she's saying, but I think she sort of made light of everything. I worry about my weight.
You think she was making light there?
Yeah, I think she sort of made it really casual. I worry about things, but I also worry about social justice and other important items, and I don't just laugh it off. I think there's two things can be held in my head at the same time.
Erica?
Yeah, I think Tori's right. When you make a statement like that, first of all, I'm sure this was not the totality of her entire interview, but it was something that, we're talking about. And I think a part of that has to do with the idea that if a woman is really concerned about, am I going to meet my partner? Am I going to get into shape that I feel comfortable with, for the summer? Then a lot of women feel like they aren't the strong woman that everyone talks about. They're not the, the present woman that everyone's cheering for because they're still considering those things. And the truth is, we can consider all the things, as Tori just stated. Like, there's nothing wrong with, thinking about who your life partner might be, along with how you're going to help in social justice issues. I mean, those things can coexist.
I know. I feel like people forget that you can have duality of thought, that things don't need to be mutually exclusive. Like, for some reason, it's like this way or the highway.
It's black or white with that, and it's not, no pun intended, in terms of race, but it's very odd that we can't be considered complicated creatures.
I know. Okay, so looks like things are getting serious between Travis Barker and Kourtney Kardashian. The two have been dating since the beginning of the year and were recently spotted at a UFC fight in Nevada. Now it looks like Travis is cementing the relationship with some ink. Kourtney posted this photo on Instagram with her name tattooed on his chest, just in case you think this is a bad idea. Travis once had a tattoo of a heart with his ex-wife's name scrolled across it.
I just feel like he kind of hedged his bets there with where that tattoo is located. You couldn't even see it. I'm looking on a high-def TV right now.
You have tattoos. Tell us what you think.
Well, I think he has so many tattoos. If it doesn't work out,
look at that. That's like hidden. It's like
not a big deal.
It's like if I put "I love you, Sam" and then put it in some bushes. Like, did I put it there? Yeah, but you can't see it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are making a big deal out of this, being like, "Oh man, he's going all in. It's permanent." Listen, homeboy can easily put a rose on top of that and it go away. We all saw what Johnny Depp did.
Oh God, Winona forever?
And then Wino forever. and Johnny Depp didn't have a whole sleeve to hide it, so.
You can cover it up.
Yeah,
I just think it's an indicator of bad decisions.
He's a hopeless romantic. He goes all in his relationships. It's quite cute.
Or he makes terrible decisions.
It's quite cute. Erica?
They've had a long-standing friendship. Maybe it's a friendship tattoo.
Good one,
if
Erica.
It doesn't work out.
Erica, we're close friends. Do you have my name tattooed anywhere on you?
No.
Oh, okay. Tori, Sam, any tattoos?
It's a hard pass for me, Al.
Okay.
That's a hard no. Okay, so we're going to switch gears here because we do have some sad news to report. Rapper DMX has passed away after complications following a heart attack. He was 50 years old. His family confirmed his death at a New York hospital today. In a statement, they said Earl was a warrior who fought till the very end. He loved his family with all of his heart, and we cherish the times we spent with him. Such a tragic story. Since his accident, he's been in a vegetative state on life support. I can't even imagine what his family members must have been thinking, because ultimately they're the ones that are going to have to make that decision. But knowing that the doctor said, Al, he is brain dead, and I'm saying this respectfully, this is exactly what the doctor said, he is brain dead and he's not going to recover. But as a family member, you always want to hold out hope.
Of course, because you do hear the stories about miracles, and if you know DMX in his career, he's a person that's just overcome everything, and just no doubt on the hip hop Mount Rushmore. Back before hip hop was like palatable to the country, when kids like me bought the CD and listened to it while his mom was in TJ Maxx, like DMX holds a different place in our hearts and our memories. And there was somebody earlier, Erica, that commented like, "Oh, you shouldn't joke about crack because we don't talk about things like that." DMX talked about the pain. He talked about his addictions, about his demons, and the reason he resonated with people is because he did that. He didn't hide that. So that's why I say to that person and to everybody, this is why artists talk about things that are difficult to talk about through their art.
Well, I think much to that same conversation earlier when we were talking about the time, there are people who are still dealing with the crack epidemic in real time. We've seen this video that's been circulating of DMX talking about the first time he was introduced to crack. He was tricked into using by someone who he trusted, who was an older man in his community when he was 14 years old, who put the crack into a marijuana or into a joint. So it wasn't as though he even intentionally decided to smoke crack. And for a lot of us who understand what the crack epidemic did, that was in the height between the 80s and 90s, the height of the crack epidemic, and how that had a continuing effect on our loved ones. Many of us have lost loved ones due to the crack epidemic, and that is very much a long-standing journey. So when we have these conversations about, is it okay to joke about crack, I think that this is a really great example of why the time is not now. And also the fact that he was a reflection of his community and all of those experiences when rap had gone in a very sleek and polished direction. So there is a whole community that is reeling right now because he represents them, their struggles, and anything that has really touched him has also touched his community and his fans. So a lot of people
well said,
are
Erica.
mourning his loss.
I know, and our thoughts and prayers to his family. I can't even imagine. May he rest in power. We will be right back.
Closed captioning provided by
When it comes to politics, we know that there's a lot of opinion. But here on the Verify team, we stick to the facts. You may have seen headlines like this: Dems could dethrone Iowa, as some Democratic leaders propose moving up the primaries for more diverse states like South Carolina ahead of Iowa and New Hampshire. So let's verify, could the order actually be changed? Our sources are these three political experts from DC and New Hampshire. Our New Hampshire professor tells us that the state has been the first primary since 1920. In 1972, Iowa inched slightly ahead of New Hampshire as the nation's first caucus.
There's not a lot of logic or thought into why we had it first, other than we were first. And once you have it, you want to keep it.
These are really important events, not only because it gives them outsized influence in selecting the presidential nominees, but there are as many reporters and political consultants and staffers in the state as there are citizens. I mean, this brings in a ton of money.
In fact, it's now part of New Hampshire law. The Secretary of State in New Hampshire is authorized to move the primary to always be at least 7 days before any other similar contest.
South Carolina would have to move theirs with an act of the legislature. What we have to do then is wait till it's too late for them to do it again and have the secretary set the date in front of theirs.
So it's a game of chicken that New Hampshire would probably win.
We hold more cards than the other state when it comes to this.
Okay, what about the National Party? Can they force Iowa or New Hampshire to let another state go first?
They certainly could step up and say, we're going to end this game of chicken. And whoever continues to do this is going to lose all of their delegates. So you're only going to get 3 delegates at the convention.
So we can verify that the order can be changed. But dethroning states like New Hampshire is not going to be easy. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozloff.
Welcome back to DBL. Today's Heart Threads is all about love and appreciation. Watch this mama's boy hug his mother after COVID lockdowns kept them apart for 1 whole year.
This baby boy got to hug his mama again after a year apart. The pandemic forced a halt to in-person visits to nursing homes.
The visits were nice, but they're not the same thing.
But as COVID vaccines are administered, the restrictions are loosening.
The regulation just changed last week that allowed us to have indoor visits in people's rooms. If the elder has been vaccinated, then they can do hug visits.
Now Glenn McKern and his mother Maxine can finally hug again.
Hi.
Hi, son.
Hi, Mama.
Love you. My son came to see me. He brought kisses and hugs.
The visit meant so much to mother and son.
I'm her youngest son, and I've always been a mama's boy.
My son came to see me. I just can't hardly believe it.
The pandemic has given Glenn and his family a greater appreciation.
We appreciate small things much more than your mom is a hug from your mom, but after a year, it's a whole different ballgame.
Go hug a family member right now. We'll be right back.
The stimulus bill expanded the child tax credit for eligible families. It could mean as much as $3,600 per qualified kid. But calculating how much it will get is a little complicated. How much you get per child depends on their age, with kids 5 and under qualifying for the full $3,600, then $3,000 for kids aged 6 to 17, and $500 for an 18-year-old who is still a dependent. How much parents make matters too. So for a single parent, your adjusted gross income needs to be $75,000 or less to get the full amount. While for joint filers, that limit is $150,000. If you make more, the amount you get per child decreases as your income rises. In order to get your payment, you need to file your 2020 taxes, and you won't get your payment in one lump sum. The money will be split between 2021 and 2022. According to CNET, the 2021 portion of the money is expected to start going out in July and will be paid periodically. Though right now, there is no set schedule.
Welcome back to DBL. When it comes to your health, how often should you be exercising? We are chatting about it on DBL's Focus on Fitness presented by QB. You need to find that happy medium with your body. If you exercise too much, you can actually overeat as a result. If you're not active enough, you won't see any results. So experts say the key here is to do 30 minutes of exercise a day. It doesn't need to be strenuous. Take a walk, do at-home exercises, anything that gets your body moving. Staying active is so important, and QB has made it easy. QB is changing the way the world thinks about fitness, regardless of physical ability or age. Try their under-desk elliptical at home. Call 1-800-782-2351 or visit QB.com to learn more. We'll be right back.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by
With so much of Derek Chauvin's trial focused on the day George Floyd died, we're seeing a lot of conversation about Floyd's life. One tweet says, "The entire world watched the murder of a man. Now we're watching the murder of his memory and his dignity." But we expect to learn more about who Floyd was during this trial. So let's verify. Are family or friends of Floyd testifying in Chauvin's trial? Our sources, court footage and records, Judge Peter Cahill, and 2 criminal law experts.
It was an adventure always with him.
Floyd's girlfriend testified during week 1 of the trial, and she spoke briefly about Floyd and their relationship. But most of the questions focused on his addiction to opioids.
Yes, we did use together.
But in the days ahead, we expect testimony from loved ones that will be more focused on George Floyd's life. And here's why. Minnesota's court system has a unique rule known as the spark of life doctrine. It allows for witnesses who are there just to humanize the victim.
Mr. Floyd in this case is entitled to have the jury realize he was a human being, he was loved, he had a family.
Prosecutors plan to show photos of Floyd throughout his life and call 2 witnesses, one of Floyd's siblings and an acquaintance from Minnesota.
That's the kind of evidence that most states don't allow because they consider it too prejudicial and not really relevant.
Ted Samsel-Jones is a professor at Mitchell-Hamlin Law School in Minnesota.
It is a hard line to draw.
Here's where it gets complicated. The judge says Spark of Life witnesses can share memories about Floyd to show he was loved, but they can't say anything that could be considered character evidence, like calling him a gentle giant.
As soon as you start getting into propensity for violence or propensity for peacefulness, I think then we're getting into character evidence, and then that does open the door for the defense to cross-examine about his character for peacefulness.
Judge Cahill has made much of Floyd's past inadmissible because it's not relevant to the case. But if a Spark of Life witness oversteps, the judge could change that.
Because it's proper cross-examination. You say X, what about Y?
Then that gives the defense more room to come back and attack his character.
Rachel Moran is a professor at St. Thomas Law School in Minneapolis.
The defense really wants to introduce as much evidence as possible of Mr. Floyd's struggles with drugs.
Court documents show Chauvin's lawyer wants to introduce evidence of prior bad acts should the state exceed the permissible scope of Spark of Life testimony.
That would give the defense the opportunity to say something like, well, wait a minute, what about this time he was convicted of a violent offense?
So we can verify, yes, more family and friends of George Floyd will testify to humanize him, but they're limited in what they can say without opening the door for the defense to go after Floyd's past. With your Verify, I'm Gabe Cohen.
Next week on DBL, a Monday you cannot miss. TV icon John Stamos is here and having way too much fun.
You go low, I go high.
And later, that's hot. The one and only Paris Hilton joins us to talk about her life today and the activism that inspires her. That's next week on DBL.
You cannot miss a single day. Okay, so Tori, you have comments?
Yes, Damon wrote in and says, I've been hearing my teen daughter blast Taylor Swift all morning. I'm already over it. And Melanie says Taylor Swift is taking back her career and I'm here for it. I just have to say something clever on the cover of Fearless. It used to be Romeo and Juliet kind of story and she needed to be saved by the prince. On the new Fearless, she's wearing the Romeo shirt herself.
Cool.
She doesn't need a Romeo. It's her.
I want to get this in really quickly. I got a text from my buddy Joey at 12:16 before I said what I said about DMX, and he texted me reciting DMX verses when I was a homeless teenager gave me confidence and hope.
Wow.
We lost a real one, so he affected a lot of people.
Yeah, well said. TBL's new every day. We'll see you Monday. Bye, guys. Have a great weekend, everybody.